but the elections happened overnight. Welcome to you if you're watching on SABC3. You've just tuned in. We are at Nasrec, and these scenes that you're witnessing there are the 5,000 plus delegates, almost 6,000. And I would suspect there are some non-voting delegates that are in there celebrating or not celebrating, depending on what you think the result is. And we're covering the soon expected announcement live, and you'll be the first to know. Just stay where you are, sit down, get a cup of tea, coffee, or whatever beverage you prefer.
Perhaps something a little bit stronger if you're on holiday. That's more than welcomed at this time, because an announcement is expected very, very soon, because it was expected that at 5 o'clock that announcement would be made. We're now sitting just after 6 o'clock, and believe me, as much as we are waiting with anticipation, you can only imagine what the delegates are feeling inside that room. But let's very quickly go back to the Johannesburg studio. Frances Hurd is standing by, and I think she's going to be updating us on the events so far during the day. Frances, good evening to you.
Thank you very much, Leanne. We're coming to you live from Auckland Park, not far away from where you are, and we're not far away from getting some finality, finally, on the results. We're talking about seconds, minutes, although it has been a while since the expectations were building up. We were hoping at around 5 o'clock to really know, but now many of the insiders say it's really, really close. And of course, we cannot speculate, as Leanne said, but the markets do. And the markets are picking up those rumors that Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has taken the cake, has come out on tops. And the rand is at a 6-month high. Last I looked, and it's really flying on those results. And if you look sort of in the last month or so, sort of mid-November to where we are now, the change in the rand, if you can believe, 14%, and a lot of that has been driven by the expectation that Cyril Ramaphosa will come in. He is, of course, seen as the business-friendly candidate, the candidate preferred by global investors. Maybe at this juncture, South Africa needs that investment. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, but that is the perception on the market. And what we're going to do is bring you those results live as soon as they happen, and then reaction from across this country. I do believe that we have Griselda Lewis standing by, or we're going to get her up as soon as we can and start picking up the mood on the ground. I can tell you at Nasrec earlier today, there was a sense of huge anticipation, but also people walking around like zombies. I spoke to some of the ministers who had to vote at about 2 o'clock this morning. Some other delegates had to stay. They couldn't go and then miss their turn. So we're talking about people who voted at 7 o'clock, as late as that, and they had to stay in that compound. Then they went and caught a few winks and rushed back to Nasrec when the plenary sessions were taking place a little bit later. But even the Minister of Higher Education saying earlier that although this fee-free education announcement by the President was so big at this conference, really the focus has been the wait for the top 6. All right, Griselda Lewis, where are you and what can you tell us?
Well, Frances, we're coming to you live from Shawelo in Soweto at the Ramaphosa family home, and I can tell you here already, as the country and I guess many parts of the world as well are waiting for that announcement on who the new ANC president will be. Here at the Ramaphosa home, they're saying already they're happy for Cyril Ramaphosa. They're hoping, of course, that the announcement that will be made, which is very imminent by the Electoral Commission, is that Cyril Ramaphosa will be the new man at the helm of the governing party in South Africa. Well, here in South Soweto is relatively where we can say it all began for Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, went to primary school and high school in this area as well. So in the street where we are, which we'll get to show you much later, there's so much anticipation from neighbors as well who are saying that they believe that Cyril Ramaphosa is the person who would be able to take not just the ANC forward, but will be able to take the country forward. But they've been watching on television just before they came outside and said they are happy, they are waiting, but they are quite certain. They say that the results will go in favor of Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's chat now exclusively here on SABC News to Cyril Ramaphosa's older sister, Ivy Ramaphosa. Ma Ramaphosa, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Much anticipation here at the Ramaphosa home. What are you hoping for in the next few minutes as we wait for that announcement?
Chotoma ndimutakalela mashudu ndiyamufuna kaladzi yanga oba oluganga manda. He was very kind and humble. He was a good boy. He never likes to fight. Ebe mutu olugawo nga manda richikwaluwa ababebi bashu bachirepa lufuno so lwaluwa nga lufuno luhulwane nga manda ndialibuwa.
What are you hoping for, Mama? That announcement has not yet been made. But what are you hoping will... I saw you're watching the SABC channel, monitoring the announcement very closely. What are you hoping for in the next few minutes?
Ndimutakalela mashudu ndiri mudzimu kebe achimuimisa narine valushaka atakuwe ave mutu ane una lufuno dotokomela lushaka lothe haketi hakoditela for ene mune uitela bathu bothe ndi mutu ane ava na lufuno ndi alibuwa nga manda zwendamba zone.
Mama, everyone knows the politician Cyril Ramaphosa and the great strides he's made in business and in a number of areas as well. What was the young Cyril Ramaphosa like? Obviously going to primary and high school in this area. You moved to this very home in 1963, if I'm not mistaken. And what was he like growing up? Did he show at a very early age those signs of leadership? Because even though there is speculation at this point, we don't want to jump the gun, that Cyril Ramaphosa might be the next leader of the ANC. He has held quite a number of other leadership positions. So, you know, what was he like? Did he show those signs of leadership at a young age?
Oba achifuna zibugu nga manda ibe mutu ane asumbedza zori hezwi zwithu zwine avakhazo zwidomuyisa ntha tshifhinga tshoṱhe. Ibe mutu ane wari uchimuvona achishuma achivala achita chimwe na chimwe achifuna dzibugu rova richifuna nga manda aringo vya ravuwa richikholwa ra richidilwa mara ava chimfuna. He used to love me a lot.
Oh, wonderful. We'll chat to you again, Mayor Ivy Ramaphosa, who is the elder sister to Cyril Ramaphosa, saying they're really waiting in anticipation for that announcement. They're very hopeful that he will be the next ANC president, and we'll certainly chat to them after that. There's a lot of excitement in the streets here in Shawelo, in Soweto, where Cyril Ramaphosa grew up. In fact, he and his family moved here in 1963, and that's where he attended here primary and high school as well. And many members of the Women's League are also here, some of the neighbors as well, and many other people who grew up with the young Cyril Ramaphosa, who we will chat to straight after that announcement is made. That's if, of course, that an announcement does indicate that Cyril Ramaphosa is the next ANC president. Let's go back to you now as that announcement is imminent.
Thank you very much, Griselda Lewis. It is imminent, so let's take you to where the action is. Live to Nasrec, south of Johannesburg, and my colleagues Peter Ndoro and Leanne Mannis standing by.
9%.
All right, so you're seeing those images that continue to show people in song and dance, and listening to them singing, you can't tell who's won, because just now we were hearing the name of Nkosazana being sung. So whatever speculation is out there, the one thing we know for certain is that we don't know anything for certain.
No, absolutely. Nicely said. I mean, it is, at this point, everybody is just, talking to their sources who are confirming to them something else that's confirming to, nothing has been confirmed yet. No announcement has been made. And honestly, you cannot speculate at a time like this with such an important announcement. You have to wait for that Electoral Commission to stand up and make the facts known. But nonetheless, the supporters are there, they're out in full force, and they are making it known who their preferred candidate is. And so whether they are supporting Cyril Ramaphosa or Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, the songs are loud, the songs are powerful, and yet you're seeing emotions on that podium that I'm not sure we have seen on these politicians' faces in a long time. At one stage you'll see Cyril Ramaphosa very happy, smiling, hugging everybody and talking. And the next second, you'll see him sitting down, heavily looking into his phone. You see the president ensuring that he's got his cup of tea next to him and he's drinking it. Then you see Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma not saying anything whatsoever to anybody. Then you see everyone huddling. Then there's been talk of Lindiwe Sisulu sitting down and having a good cry, whether it's out of happiness or sadness or just the nerves. I mean, Melanie, we are nervous. South Africa is nervous, and you can tell that. Can you imagine what they're going through?
Oh, it's incredible. I have to say, it would be nice if we can throw a little bit of a dance here to get some of the strain out of us and the stress.
But it is significant what's we're seeing here now. But this is almost
a prayer
how you approach your ancestors culturally. And they've laid a flag of Cyril's face and the ANC flag next to it, and they are paying homage and thanking him. This is quite a thing to observe and to see. Is this common? Have you seen this at ANC conferences before?
I have not seen that specific gesture before. I have definitely not seen that. And it just level of emotion in the ANC at the moment, and just how much is at stake. It's just we've been saying it over and over again, but the emotions that goes with this it seems so much higher than I have ever seen it before. I have to say, the one thing you have to acknowledge is that you cannot beat the ANC with rhythm if you watch the dancing there. And the other thing that struck me being back at this conference is just how, on a lighter note, how the clothes have been diversified and how much more fashionable the clothes of the ANC has become. It's not just the Chris Hani t-shirts and the OR Tambo t-shirts anymore. You're getting all kinds of versions now, even techies and runners, that are in ANC colors. And that is just extraordinary images that we are seeing there.
I mean, it feels like a church celebration, like over Easter or something like this, where they come from all parts of the country, at Moria or somewhere else. It's really hard to describe this.
Indeed it is. I mean, it's one of those momentous occasions where I think you turn around and you ask somebody, where were you when the announcement came through? So remember where you are, ladies and gentlemen, because you'll be reciting the story for quite some time. But remember that we're not only getting the positions of the president announced. So I know that's the big one that everybody's expecting, but remember that there are a lot of announcements as well, and we're not sure either whether or not we've got the announcements in what order. Well, we know the president is going to be announced, the deputy president as well, and those contending for that position are David Mabuza and Lindiwe Sisulu. And we saw a beautiful moment of it earlier where Max Sisulu went up to his sister and gave her a big hug as well. So that's it's family, it's real, and we'll see what happens there with that announcement. The national chair as well is expected to be announced. The contention there is Gwedi Mantashe and Nathi Mthethwa. The Secretary General is Senzo Mkunu and Ace Mahashule, and the Deputy Secretary General, Jesse Duarte and Zingiswa Losi. And then finally, the last position that will be announced, Treasurer General Paul Mashatile and Maite Mkwana Mashatile.
All right, so you would have seen a little bit earlier on that we crossed to Griselda Lewis, who was in Soweto speaking to Cyril Ramaphosa's sister, but we're going all across the country. We've got reporters stationed in most of the provinces. Let's go now to KwaZulu-Natal, where Mlungisi is standing by.
Slightly. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm here with one of the branch chairpersons who is in Ward 32. He was one of those people who lobbied for Cyril Ramaphosa to become the next president of the country. But due to certain technicalities, his branch was not allowed to go into the conference. So the results are going to be out very, very shortly. You as the branch, what is it that you expect?
Well, we are expecting that the electoral officials are going to pronounce Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the new president of the country.
Leading up to the conference, your branch had a few technicalities that prevented you from going to the conference. What is it that you guys encountered?
Well, there were issues of political instability within the branch, and that has been caused by the manipulation of processes of ward candidates in 2016. So we've been looking up to the leadership of the ANC to sort out that issue. Up until now, there is no progress in terms of assisting the branch. So according to the view of Comrade Mtumsenintuli, who was given a task to come and work with us so that we build up for a BGM that is going to elect the conference, he said that he's of a view that there is no possibility that in Ward 32 there will be a successful BGM without people fighting one another. So for the safety of the comrades, it's better that we must not go to the conference. Let us try to rebuild Ward 32. Let us try to work for the unity of Ward 32.
And lastly, I see that the mood is very jovial. Everybody is excited as we wait with an unabated breath as to who will be the next president. What's the current mood in the situation right now?
As you can see, ukuthi siyavuma. These comrades are fully behind Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, the former deputy president of the ANC, to become our next president. That is going to restore the dignity of the ANC.
Well, there you heard from Ward 32. I was just talking to the branch chairperson. Everybody over here wearing t-shirts saying that Siyavuma. It's very evident and obvious that they are supporting Cyril Ramaphosa to be the next president. But when the results do come out, we are sure we'll bring you back the next outcome of this joyous celebration here in Ward 32. Over back to you in studio. Outcome of joyous celebration here in Ward 32. Over back to you in studio.
Mlungisi Kumalo there in one of the branches that's supporting Cyril Ramaphosa, but unfortunately couldn't vote for a technical reason. And a little bit later on, we're going to be trying to go to Bujanala, which of course was also hit. A huge casualty there. A number of their branches couldn't go. I think more than 100 actually. Yeah. And that's around the Rustenburg area in the northwest. Dr. Nkosazana and Dlamini-Zuma supposed stronghold. So perhaps, you know, when we look at the figures, maybe it might have been significant that those votes didn't come through. Yeah. But we don't know what the number is at this stage.
We certainly don't, but we do know that there's a delay. So we're all sitting, we're all waiting, the whole country is waiting, and we're not too sure what the delay is. Malali, have we ever been in a situation like this? I mean, if we look back at previous conferences, when they sort of gather, and we were asked to gather at around about 5 o'clock, where the Electoral Commission was meant to be there was a high possibility, and now everybody's waiting for them. Has there ever been a delay like this that you can recall?
Look, it's the ANC. Delays are the name of the game, you know.
Yeah.
And who knows? But from some of the people who are in the venue there, who can tweet to us or say to us what's going on, there seems to be something brewing. I'm not 100% sure what. Apparently, and we should say it's News 24 that's reporting that, says that Batabile Dlamini is shaking her head in disgust about something that's going on.
Okay.
Apparently, there's been some boos there when Cyril Ramaphosa's face came up on the big screen, whereas there were loud cheers when Dlamini-Zuma's face came up. So not 100% sure what's going on inside there. I mean, the delay seems a little bit long now, you know, just for people getting their papers together and getting round to talking. must watch that, because frustration, you know, as the tension rises, and if there's suddenly now a frustration that something is going wrong, that could end up not so well.
I mean, you know, just as a conversational point, could there be a challenge already? Could there be a recount happening that we perhaps don't know about? Could there be something that's happening behind the scenes that is seriously delaying this?
I heard rumors about a possible recount happening because I think the votes can be absolutely close. Will there be a court challenge? I somehow suspect if the vote is really close, then the losing side will possibly appeal the decision of National Conference.
What do you make of this image here now? Sorry to interrupt you, but we've got the president standing up, taking a selfie with Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, and Pulemabe as well. It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, what does that say to us? Nothing.
Well, interesting dynamics. You know, it's the modern age of Twitter and Facebook. Probably he wants a selfie, you know, for his profile.
Exactly. We can't read anything into selfies, can we?
Yeah.
No, I mean, and this has been really interesting about this conference, more so than any previous conference, of course, is the role of social media and the amount of rumor mongering that goes on, and the amount of WhatsApp groups and the amount of Twitter feeds, etc., etc. So, I mean, this is all, you know, very different and very new in terms of ANC contests, and I'm sure that some people will do some research to the extent that that also played a role in how people, you know, organize themselves and how they were able to caucus and have certain pressure groups. I mean, it would be very interesting if there is a recount here, and I mean, a recount would assume, of course, that they have informed the candidates at least already of the outcome of the vote, which I would assume, if that is what's indeed going on. We don't know, you know, we need to be very careful with speculation, because already we can see that the rand is responding so in the business and the market so much.
Elections, the election body itself, you know, they're not counting once. They've done this thoroughly. They're putting their reputation and their name, and their processes haven't been called into question before, have they? So one would think that someone can call a recount, but it's unlikely to yield a different result.
I think it's highly unlikely, and you have to remember that we also have the elders, the veterans are also part of the elections agency, overseeing the processes, that everything is above board. And this is the reason why, you know, also in Polokwane there was a call from the floor. Initially they said electronic voting, and the delegates protested. They said, no, we want that paper trail. So the same thing happened here as well. You know, in 2017, there was a call earlier at Plenary for electronic voting to move with the times, and the delegates said no, because we want the paper trail. If the vote is too close to call, we want to see where the so-called discrepancies are.
Apparently there are now 3 sources, for what that is worth, saying that there is a recount underway. It hasn't been confirmed by the ANC. We need to say that it hasn't been confirmed. But it seems that seems to me the only logical explanation why this is going so incredibly long.
It's close then.
Yeah.
Because if it was a huge margin, you wouldn't need a recount.
Yeah, like Polokwane, the difference was 60-40, Jacob Zuma to Thabo Mbeki, and you would recall in Mangaung, there was no question, because Jacob Zuma just cemented his hold of the ANC. He got 75% of the ballot, and at that election, Mantashe was the only official to have secured the most number of votes. If my memory serves me correct, he garnered 77% of the ballot at Mangaung in 2012. So should anything happen or call into question the ballot at this conference, I think the ANC has, you know, those checks and balances in place to ensure nothing actually untoward, goes on, before the results are released. And again, you know, this whole thing about the paper trail. So that's why there is a delay. And very importantly as well, remember, before they release the results, those results have to be firstly verified and they need to be audited. Then only the elections agency, those representatives. The other day we had Dren Newpen. Incidentally, by the way, she was the one who announced the historic Polokwane results. Right. And now with much grayer hair, much whiter hair, she's possibly going to do the same thing 10 years later.
Yeah. All right, let's Let's reflect on what's happening not only here but around the rest of the country as well. And just on a side note, it was wonderful to see the images of our former president. Let's not forget former president Kgalema Motlanthe sitting in the audience as well. He at one stage vying for this top position as well. But let's carry on traversing around the country and crossing to our respective reporters.
Yes, we're going to Bojanala now, and Nicoline Smallman is there. And Bojanala is one of those provinces, one of those areas that couldn't vote. But what's the feeling there like now this evening, Nicoline? Areas that couldn't vote.
We are currently in Brits here in the Bojanala region. Of which the regional conference of the ANC was declared null and void in the Rustenburg High Court on Friday. The expectation is that this will cost a lot of votes to or for Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Let's speak to the people here of Brits and ask what they feel. Sir, what do you think? What is your expectation? Who will be announced the leader of the ANC, and who do you hope will actually take the leadership position?
Definitely Cyril, because he's got a head on him for business and he cares for our people in this rainbow nation in our country. He's got vision and integrity, and we love him, all our people.
Thank you so much. We have driven around in Brits. There is no formal gathering. We expect that the people are nailed to their television sets in anticipation of the results expected to be announced soon. Back to you in studio.
Nicoline, thank you very much indeed. It is a curious thing that it is sort of deathly quiet. I can't think of another word, but I suppose, you know, they weren't allowed to participate, so maybe they are bystanders genuinely. It is interesting. Have you got any thoughts on that at all?
Maybe they're all sitting in the shebeens watching.
I tend to agree with you, Milani. I think every street is quiet at the moment. Everybody's sitting around a television or a radio, or they are looking at that cell phone like it's the last thing on earth, waiting for some form of result or clue or hint as to what's going on. I want to get back, sorry Peter to interrupt, but I really do want to get back to the whole issue of perhaps this recount happening. Milani, 3 sources saying it. We don't know, it's not confirmed by the ANC, but there's got to be something happening behind the scenes for this to happen. When we get to a recount situation, what happens there?
Well, it's still the Electoral Commission. They ultimately have the final say in all of this. The thing you want to avoid is the loser to go out and dispute it and then take it to court, or saying that this is the worst scenario in a way for the ANC tonight, is if that starts happening, because then you're going to have really big problems. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be because it's close. It might also be if the margin is so big, unexpectedly, that they're saying there's a big problem, you've lost some batches of paper somewhere boxes disappeared, this can't be right. So, I mean, there are 2 options here. The one is, in fact, that they're disputing it, if indeed there is a dispute going on, because it is very close, and they say, look, you might have, glued 2 pieces of paper, might have been counted together, if it's a couple of votes different. Alternatively, if the margin is extremely big, that they say, how did it suddenly become so big? There's a problem somewhere.
What's happening lower down the slate? Because we're assuming right now that it's up the slate, but maybe it's further down where it was expected to go a certain way. It's become very close, and that could be actually the number 2 position. That could be questionable. Rinesh, I know your figures tell you different in your...
Yeah, again, I always rely on my numbers, because going to this conference, you have to, refer to the numbers, look at the bigger provinces, and that's the reason perhaps why we saw the KZN chairperson. I'm not sure about his legal status now since the court ruling, but we saw Sishle Zikalala and a couple of his PEC members on the floor just dancing and in jubilation, in high spirits. So maybe they know something that perhaps all the other delegates at plenary do not know. But just look at the figures. wait for the elections agency to come and make that fateful announcement. And I think this time, Peter, we are very, very fortunate, because if I remember the past conferences, the results of the top 6 were announced quite late at night. Polokwane, I remember sitting up at 2 a.m. and at Mangaung it was after 11 or 12. So very close to results at 6, 7 in the evening. I think we're, very, very fortunate in that sense.
Can I ask you, in terms of if this recount is happening, why keep the delegates there? How long would a recount actually take? I mean, we saw from this afternoon how long it did take, and we have all said, we don't want tempers to flare. We don't want. I mean, things are hot in there, and I'm not just talking about temperaments. I'm talking about temperature. Although, here we go. Looks like something's about to happen. Let's go live into the plenary session.
Is the president of COSATU, Stumo Dlamini, speaking at the podium now. Let's hear what he has to say.
Amanda, viva ANC, viva! yamemeza insimbi yathume emadlebeni iyolehlanyisa umfana iyoleba ngusathane awuyamemeza insimbi yathume emadlebeni hawu iyolehlanyisa umfana iyoleba ngusathane awuyamemeza insimbi yathume emadlebeni awuyiyolehlanyisa umfana awuyiyoleba ngusathane. My mother was a kitchen girl, my father was a cutting board, that's why I'm a communist. Oh, my mother was a kitchen girl, my father was a cutting boy, that's why I'm a communist, I'm a communist, oh, that's why.
Welcome back to what you've been watching, and these visuals coming to us live from inside the plenary. There on your screen is Jeff Radebe. We saw our president, Jacob Zuma. Everybody standing up and dancing now, as we've got Zdumo Dlamini from Kasatu giving us some songs and just trying to keep the mood up in the room. And I think it is needed at a stage like this, where the delay has been so long. We're heading into almost a 2-hour delay for the announcement of those results. But we've been getting so many different stories as to what's been going on and why the results have been delayed. There have been a couple of confirmations saying that a recount is currently underway. But let's find out a little bit more. Milani, I know that you were talking to us about what could possibly be happening as well with regard to slates. I mean, perhaps a clean slate happening on the one side and this recount being pulled.
Yeah, it seems from the rumors we are hearing that is in fact the problem here, that what's happened is one slate, and it looks like it's the Cyril Ramaphosa slate as one outright. This is what the people who are close to some of the candidates are saying now. So they're now starting to talk. So it's people close to the candidates are saying that, but that apparently, and I'm speaking now on what I'm being told, but that Nomvulo Mkunyana has asked for a recount, and that she's asking, for all the positions. Now, if that is indeed correct, we have it from about 4 or 5 sources close in there. If that is indeed correct, then this could take a while. Then people should go and have dinner first while they keep their TVs on, in the background, because that is not a quick process. Now, I mean, the NEC is still sitting there. They're not moving, but this delay is getting long, and I think soon we'll see the delegates getting, we'll start hearing sort of rumblings of unhappiness there. It's also been interesting that there's been all kinds of reports from people who are in there saying that Baleka Mbete has been in tears, that Ndiwe Sisulu is in tears. So, I mean, it is a question of whether they are happy, whether they are sad. But it seems that something is happening, and you can see even from the images, you can see that the delegates are starting to get a bit restless.
Indeed, and that's a worry, because, I mean, I've already been some of the media that have walked out of the room because they actually cannot stand the heat in there anymore, and it's getting too much. So one can only imagine that the delegates are feeling very much so the same way, and it might be a better idea to sort of let them go out, have dinner, and then call them when they're ready. Because as you say, this could be another very long delay in the announcement of these results, if in fact we hear them before midnight.
Yeah, these are remarkable scenes. I have never seen apart from Bloemfontein Celtic supporters, so much singing and dancing continuously.
But you can see they're calming down. You can see they're sitting. You can see, you know, it's very easy to get a sense of a room, you know, and that room is definitely not starting to become a bit unhappy. That
Do you think that the message has filtered through that there's a recount that's been ordered and asked for?
You know, if we know it and it's been, you know, then what will happen in the next few seconds, it will go on Twitter and people will know, you know. And you know, they need to be cautious because even a recount can make people grumpy if they think that something's cooking again, you know.
I think, Lisa, very importantly, you have to reflect on what happened at the recent KZN PGC as well. It was the same agency, there was a recount, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma got more branches on her side, and Cyril's just decreased by 2. And KZN, I think they're very suspicious of that electoral agency.
All right, let's listen to the president now.
Which one? Translated for us. This song.
It's a long journey. What so shangana freedom te washu Mandela kubalande libake. What so shangana freedom. Oh hinde lendela hambayo. Oh hinde lendela hambayo. Oh hinde lendela hambayo. Oh hinde lendela hamba. Washu Mandela kubalande libake. Wotu so sangana freedom. Washu Mandela kubalande libake. Wotu so sangana freedom. Hinde Henzela hambayo. Hinde Henzela hambayo. Hinde Henzela hambayo. Hinde Henzela hambayo. Washu Mandela kubalande libake. Wotu so sangana free. Washu Mandela kubalande libake. Wotu so sangana free. Fine. Umshanawam, 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 mi wevava. Haule tu umshanawam, 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 mi wevava. Haule tu umshanawam, 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 mi wevava. Haule tu umshanawam, 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 mi wevava. When we are bambezela, umshanawam, 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 mi wevava. When I'm Usungbambezela, umshene wami we baba. Sebefikile, iyabhubhudla inkeso.
Amandla ngawethu. Viva the Alliance, viva! Viva the ANC, viva! My comrades, asihlalen phansi ke manje. Let us all go back to our delegations and the rightful corners where we belong in the plenary hall. Comrade President Jacob Zuma and the officials, I wish to use this opportunity to thank this conference of delegates of branches of the African National Congress. I wish to thank this conference for disappointing those who thought that this conference would not come together. I wish to thank you, comrades, delegates, robust as you were at certain moments, but on the whole, this conference has been a success, although it has not ended yet, because it has been disciplined. And it is now my honor and my gratitude to have been able to play my role as the national chairperson for the last time in this 54th conference. Thank you very much, comrades, for having cooperated with the officials and the leadership that is sitting here on this stage. It is always an honor and a pride to have this opportunity to serve in whatever capacity. Comrades, I now have the privilege to call upon the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to come forward and address conference in order that the process of announcing the results of the elections and also proceeding with preparations for the rest of the elections of additional members of the National Executive Committee should unfold. And comrades, I hope you will cooperate with the new leadership team and you will continue to build a united, disciplined, determined, and winning African National Congress as we move to the 2019 elections. Comrade Cindy Somfenyana, I now hand over to you. Please come and address the conference. Where is he? Comrade Cindy Somfenyana, the chair of the Electoral Commission, is now going to address us. Thank you very much, comrades.
Mandla. We have now come to the long-awaited announcements with regard to the officials of the African National Congress. Before we get there, allow me to express our deep gratitude on behalf of the people of South Africa for the sterling work which the members of the outgoing officials of the African National Congress have done. I will also indicate that before we make the announcements of the new officials, it is my honor, pleasure, and privilege to dissolve the outgoing officials of the African National Congress. We wish them a happy future in their endeavors. We are also dissolving the National Executive because as soon as we have made the announcements, we shall proceed to the nominations for the new National Executive of the African National Congress. I will now call upon the spokesperson of the election, which conducted the nominations, the counting, and therefore the announcement they will make of the new officials of the African National Congress, generally referred to as the top six. I call upon Bontlemba Kanyane on behalf of election to come and make the announcement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, comrades. As you all know, it has been a very long Sunday, and we are now here ready to give you the outcome of the voting process. Also, to take this opportunity at this stage to thank the Electoral Commission for its guidance and the extended team encompassing the leagues and the provincial monitors who joined the Electoral Commission during its work. Without any waste of time, comrades, I know you're waiting with bated breath. The brief statistical information with regard to the voting is as follows. The adopted credentials by conference are 4,776. And in this instance, comrades, with this first round of voting, we had a total of 4,708 votes cast, giving us a 99% poll to the voting. Comrades, I'm going to give you the results in the order of how the names appeared on the ballot paper, and I would beg you to give me the opportunity to finish the stats per position before you can start celebrating. I will start with the spoiled ballots for the position of Deputy President. We had 3 spoiled ballots and 4 abstentions. And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma received 2261 votes, and Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa received 2440 votes. We declare Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the new president of the African National Congress. May I request Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa to come to the stage, please? The results for the next position is that of Deputy President. Thank you, comrades. The next position is that of Deputy Deputy President, the outcome of the voting for this position is as follows. We received 7 spoiled ballots and 4 abstentions, and the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade David Mabuza, 2538 votes. Comrade Lindiwe Sisulu, 2159 votes. Comrade David Mabuza is the new Deputy President of the African National Congress. Comrade David, please come up to the stage. Thank you, comrades. The next position is a position for national chairperson. In this instance, we received 7 spoiled ballots and 14 abstentions. And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Gwede Mantashe at 2418 votes, and Comrade Nati Mtetwa at 2269. The new national chairperson is Comrade Gwede Mantashe. Could the comrade please come to the fore? sure you can see. Comrades, the next position, Secretary General, at spoiled ballots totaling 4 votes and 8 abstentions. And the votes are as follows. Comrade Ace Mashatile at 2360 votes. Comrade Senzo Mkunu, 2336 votes. Is the position of Deputy Secretary General. Again, we received 4 spoiled ballots with 17 abstentions. And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Jesse Duarte, 2474 votes. And Comrade Zingiswa Losi, 2213. Comrade Jesse Duarte retains her position. position. The very last position for Treasurer General, we received 6 spoiled ballots and 7 abstentions, and the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Paul Mashatile at 2517 votes, and Comrade Maite Nkwana Mashabane at 2178 votes. Comrade Paul Mashatile is the new Treasurer General.
Well, there you have it. The vote is finally in. The results have been tabulated, and you can see the new leadership of the African National Congress that is now on stage. And in the end, the unity vote won.
Indeed it did. So you got everybody welcoming each other onto the stage, and now it's to see if all of these new leaders are able to work together. So let's just recap what we have just heard this evening. The new president of the ANC is Cyril Ramaphosa. Our deputy president of the ANC, David Mabuza. We've got the national chairperson, Gwede Mantashe. And we've also been announced that the Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, he won by such a narrow margin. We're talking 24 votes is what he won. Deputy Secretary General retaining her position, now moving on perhaps for 15 years. That's Jessie Duarte. And finally, the Treasurer General of the ANC is Paul Mashatile.
Yeah, let's cross straight away to Soweto in Soweto, where Cyril Ramaphosa's sister and family are standing by. Griselda, I'm sure there's a lot of celebration there right now.
Well, Peter, I'm really struggling to hear you at this time, Peter, but absolute scenes of jubilation here at the home of the now new president of the African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa. Both young and old have come to celebrate, and they're saying that the sun of Soweto has risen today, and they say they're putting all their beliefs in Cyril Ramaphosa to ensure that he does take the African National Congress forward, as well as the country as well. I'm going to bring in a very special guest here at the moment. She is the woman who has known Cyril Ramaphosa since he was very young. You are one of the principals of Cyril Ramaphosa. First of all, Mama, how do you feel today that Cyril Ramaphosa is now the new president of the ANC?
I feel so great. I am so proud because this is what we normally anticipate when you bring up a child at school. And at the end of the day, we hopefully see some of the things, we anticipate some of the things that will happen in the future. Cyril was a humble young man. He was kind and he was always close to those who are needy. And I remember very well at a very, very tender age, when he was still studying, he would come at the cottage where I used to stay. There were 4 boys who will come there and study, and I used to cook for them, and they will eat, and we loved them. There were 4 boys who were very intelligent.
Mama, did Cyril Ramaphosa show leadership traits at a very young age? What did you notice in him? We know he's held several positions within government, and now he's at the helm of the governing party in this country.
Yes, he did show some leadership skills because he would always like to help the other children. He would always like to support others so that they should also come on board.
Mama, what would you say to Cyril Ramaphosa? You have known him for the longest time. Your husband also grew him up. What would you say to Cyril Ramaphosa as a member of the ANC, as an ordinary citizen of this country, and of course they're saying the son of Soweto has risen? What would you say to him?
Mr. Ramaphosa, I would wish you well. I would wish you all the best in your new endeavor, so that you should be able to bring our country back to where it was. Let us go back to the roots and bring this South Africa back again.
Thank you very much, Mama. Let's see if we can speak to some young people. I hope we have time for that. Another young... All right, Peter, it's getting very difficult to speak to many of the excited residents here of Soweto who are wishing Cyril Ramaphosa well. We'll try and move towards this direction just to show you really what is happening here in the street at the moment. We'll just try and move. And really, scenes of jubilation. Everybody wants to send well wishes to Cyril Ramaphosa. The entire street itself is full. And okay, let me chat to you, sir. Let's chat to you. Okay, residents are demanding that I speak to them this evening. Sir, your message to Cyril, please don't push. Your message to Cyril Ramaphosa, tell us your feelings this evening as a resident of Soweto.
I feel so happy because that thief Zuma is gone now. Cyril will be a good leader. He will lead all of us in South Africa, not China only, but around the country. We are very much happy today. We are hoping the NPA will do their work now to arrest that crook, Jacob Zuma. Yeah. We are winning.
All right. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for at this stage as the celebrations continue here in Soweto, in Soweto. We'll certainly bring you a whole lot more for the course of the evening as the people here in Soweto celebrate.
Thank you very much indeed, Griselda. So a very excited Soweto and Soweto, and that of course is the stomping ground of a young Cyril Ramaphosa. He's a child of that area, and they're very proud that he's risen to the highest position in the African National Congress. And not a lot of people throughout the 105, 106-year history of the party get to occupy that position, but he can put his name there, and he will be remembered as one of the presidents of the oldest liberation party on the continent. And so history has been made. But let's bring in our analysts and let's get your reactions. Rinesh, your figures spoke.
Yes, absolutely. We can very proudly say that the SABC called this election absolutely correctly yesterday. We said unity will win, the slate will be straight down the middle, and that's exactly what happened. If you look at all the results, the major difference, every candidate that actually won, there wasn't really a big majority. If you look at the president, Cyril Ramaphosa winning the ANC president's post, it was by a margin of 51.82%. Then David Mabuza, the new ANC president, he won with 53.90%, and only 379 votes separated him and Lindiwe Sisulu. Then the SG's post, the Secretary General's post, obviously we know went to the Free State Premier, Ace Magashule. But here, a very small margin, 24 votes separated him from the former Premier of KZN, that's Senzo Mkhunu, and Ace Magashule's vote, obviously 50.12%. Then the Deputy SG's post, which was won by Jessie Duarte, her 10th, she served a previous term, so this will be another 5 years for her. She won the vote with 52.50%. Then chairperson, we expected this somehow, Gwede Mantashe winning with 51.35%, and Paul Mashatile, the new treasurer of the ANC, he won with 53.46% of the ballots.
I must say, it really is a telling evening here as we see Cyril Ramaphosa getting this top position as president of the ANC. And if we go to the years of 1994 and we look at the history of South Africa and we bring up the memory of Nelson Mandela, this was at one stage his pick to be the next president of the country and the ANC.
And you know, I'm sure that Wema Diba is now smiling, because I think this is what he always wanted.
We're gonna cut you, unfortunately. Let's go straight to the stage now and just see what's happening now.
Let us pray. Gracious and wonderful God, at the beginning of this conference, we came before you. We ask you to be with this conference. We came before you in many ways. We spoke to you in many ways. Lord, we call upon you to bring peace and stability in this conference. Lord, we call upon you to ensure that this conference will be a success for the sake of your people in this movement, in this country and the world. Lord, we ask you that you give us a leader and leaders who will lead this organization to the future of the next 5 years and beyond. We prayed to you. We spoke with you. We interceded with you. We petitioned you. We confessed to you. Now we come to give thanks to you. Thank you, Lord, that you have been able to be our God, that you have managed to keep this conference together. We come to say thank you for all the work that has been done by this conference, for the sake of your people. Above all now, you have expressed the depth of your love and your grace by giving us these leaders. We commend these leaders to your special care. Here is a new president. Mr. Ramaphosa, we give him to you, that you give him wisdom to lead this organization. He takes over at a time that the whole world is looking upon us. He takes over at this time when there's negativity upon the world as they look upon us. He takes over this organization at the time that there's uncertainty, especially about economic growth of our people. He takes over this organization when even the most vulnerable are looking up to him to provide leadership. The most needy, the poorest of the poor, they are looking up to him. You love your people, Lord, more than you love your leaders. But you respect and give them power to lead those leaders who work for your people. Surround him with wisdom, insight and deep understanding, clarity of mind, and give him the gift of transcendency as he leads this organization. Here are these men and this woman who are with him, who have been elected by this conference with confidence and love, with trust and hope that things will not be the same as yesterday. They put all their hopes on them, that all the dark yesterdays, they will be able to transform them to bright tomorrows. The hope for tomorrow, it is with them as you walk with them. Walk with these leaders. Bless them. Bless their families. Bless all those who will be working with them to make their term to be a time of service and honor to you for the sake of your people. I now present them to you to always be with them, to always be their God. During the day, be the bow, at night, and never forsake them, and never leave them. Love this organization and pour your blessings upon it, as it is the hope of the people of this country. We ask these things as we call them upon you, in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, and in the name of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We need to move on. This leadership behind me is going to require the assistance of there are just one or two announcements which will be made about people who lost their IDs. No, what I want to say is our agency election is now going to move on towards the nominations for the independent for national executive members. I think approximately about 80. So she's just setting up, and then she will come into the reading of the names, and then the voting will start, so that our new leaders will immediately have the assistance of a new national executive.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening, delegates. Comrades, as you know, the process, we are now entering the stage for the ANC additional members. In front of you in the screens is the list of candidates and their status. Remember, you are supposed to be voting for a maximum of 80 candidates. If on the list that has been flighted, there are names of certain individuals that provinces feel should be part of the ANC, they still have an opportunity to be nominated from the floor. And for that process, they need to be supported by 25% of accredited.
All right, so we are back in studio now. We've lost the feed into the plenary area, but the story is Cyril Ramaphosa is the new president of the African National Congress. And as we start to unpack some of the issues, Melanie, I think the first one that jumps out of for you is gender.
I mean, clearly what has happened, and it's interesting, I also wrote this 2 weeks ago in the column that I write on News 24, that I thought that we must look at the bottom up and that it was going to look exactly the way it looked. The one thing that we weren't sure about was the top position, and that was Cyril versus NDZ, but I also called the rest absolutely correctly. And interestingly enough, and this is what concerns me a little bit, is that Nkosazana won with lost with 179 votes. So Cyril Ramaphosa won with less than 200 votes, and of course that is about the number that people felt went missing after those court cases. So I really hope this is not going to end up back in court again. Let's really hope that. But one of the apart from how close this race is, and this is first time for the ANC that it's this close, especially in all the positions. The one thing that obviously comes immediately that is very visible here is that the whole gender ticket went out the window. We have only Jessie there, that's a woman, and you know, if you also take into account that none of the ANC premiers are women, clearly, you know, there is still a huge, long journey for the ANC to in terms of the whole gender thing. The big question is now, of course, two things. One is, to what extent will this mix, because it's straight down the middle, as we just said, 3-3. And the question is now, to what extent will Ramaphosa be able to implement his policies, and to what extent will he still be paralyzed by the fact that there are very strong guys from the other side, Didi Mabuza, Ace Magashule, etc. on that NEC. The other thing which is interesting here, if you look at the numbers, and I don't know if you agree, but it is that this whole hotly debated thing around that the unity votes from Mpumalanga, that those unity votes clearly went to NDZ. If in fact, if they didn't, or even if they were split midway, Cyril Ramaphosa would have won by about 500 votes, which he clearly didn't do. So that's also very interesting to me. The big question now is what happens with the NEC, because for Ramaphosa to move, and particularly whether Jacob Zuma is going to be asked to step down as president, is now going to all depend on whether the NEC is also a much stronger Cyril Ramaphosa NEC. And remember, now the camps know, you know, how hard they need to fight. Both sides are now going to have to go very hard for the rest of the NEC, who then elects the NWC, who is so important in all the decision making.
Ranesh, what stands out for you?
No, absolutely. You know, for me, obviously, we correctly predicted that this will be split in the middle. The next big in the NEC, and that's more the reason why these guys, you know, they know that, you know, there are two camps. They're very entrenched camps within the ANC, and we can see from the vote tallies, everything's just, you know, about 51 to 53%. So they will fight, you know, they'll fight very hard to get, you know, as much and many of their people into that NEC as possible. And like Melanie said earlier on, you know, there was this talk about possibly recalling President Jacob Zuma, you know, just after these elections at National Conference. I think that's going to be absolutely difficult now.
All right, so let's just be clear, because you know, we're talking about NEC and a president that's going to struggle to run things. what really is at stake? Because the policy issues, they're agreed, they've been discussed, the commissions are going to endorse them, so it's just a question of following those through. So what is it? What are the issues then that are problematic in the NEC? Is it just Jacob Zuma?
Well, I think the ANC has much more problems than that. You know, if you look at the SG reports as well, the organizational reports, you know, the issue of the branches, you know, problematic branches, that's where the rot within the ANC, you know, is actually seeping in. I had a look at the 2017 SG report that was released to the media earlier today, and those self-same problems are there. It's factionalism, gatekeeping.
They'll want to fix those. Both sides will want to fix those. So what is it that they disagree on that makes it problematic for the NEC?
Well, no, I mean, I think we need to, I mean, the big thing, you are correct, that the one really big thing here is going to be the question about whether Jacob Zuma stays or whether he goes. So are we going to see a new president for the country? And then, I mean, because the president to a large extent then, you know, has influenced which way the ANC has been going, and in particularly not so much the broader policy issues, you are right. But remember also ANC policy is very broad. The actual nuts and bolts of it comes through the cabinet, and so in terms of the cabinet, we you know, it's a question as, are we going to see a new cabinet? Are we, and that is very important. I mean, but the recent court judgment on who appoints the head of the NPA, you know, that now becomes really, really interesting here. Because if, for example, Jacob Zuma now goes off, if Didi Mabuza becomes deputy president of the country as well, then is he going to appoint the NPA head? You know, this now becomes all very, very interesting. So yes, of course, policy stands, but ultimately the nuts and bolts, and who are those cabinet ministers taking the detailed decisions, who does the regulations that so often govern so many things, who appoints their DGs, who are in charge of the SOEs, all of that is determined largely by who is at the head of the government and who is going to, and who is then, you know, also the cabinet, and that's going to depend now whether Jacob Zuma is willing to go off, and that's going to depend on the NEC.
There certainly was great talk just before the election that Ramaphosa was the man who was going to recall President Jacob Zuma. I mean, that was what many people were suspecting.
Take a pause again. Good Mantashe,
oh, is he about
on the stage. Let's go there.
The electoral Mamelani comrade, we say the Electoral Commission present the list of nomination. In that list, there is no limit to how many names must come from a province. A province can have as many. If branches have nominated 10 from one province, so be it. The two limitations to a province are on the nominations from the floor. And we cannot know that until we see that list. Can we allow the Electoral Commission to present that list? Then the Commission itself will open nominations from the floor. And additional nominations from the floor are limited to 2 per province. I want to take comrades to the memory lane. I don't know if you remember that when we met in Polokwane, one of the reasons that comrade Slovo Majol couldn't get on the list is because he was from Gauteng, and Gauteng had already had 2. And they said they're Free State, and Free State stood up and clarified that it's not from the Free State. So we are begging you that it's not there's no amendment, it's a standing rule, old rule, that when you go to the additional 2 members, 2 per province, not more. That is what is standing, it's a standing rule. Let's allow the Commission to continue presenting the names of nominees for additional members. Thereafter, as I said, if you want to discuss any other aspects, let's allow you to discuss those aspects. Please, comrades. Electoral Commission. How are you, comrades?
Can I take the floor, Chair? Am I recognized?
Yes, comrade.
Thank you very much, National Chairperson. My name is Supra Obakeng Ramoeletsi Mahumapelo, the provincial chairperson of the Bokoni-Bophirima province. Chair, I just want to remind you that your proposal has to be endorsed by conference. So I want to suggest that that proposal you made that we agreed to, that later we must allow the media to leave, we agree to it as conference instead of the chair just saying it's closed. So I'm saying from the floor, I support your proposal and let conference agree to it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'm executing the program as is. Are we happy? Can we go ahead with that? Okay. Electoral Commission present the names for additional candidates for the NEC. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. National Chairperson. Comrades, allow me to present the list as flighted in your screens. Can we please go up a bit? We have firstly Comrade Fikile Mbalula. He has accepted the nomination, nominated by 1,204 branches. Comrade Ronald Lamula also accepted the nomination, nominated by 1,171 branches. Comrade Joel Nechitenze also accepted nomination, nominated by 1,145 branches. Comrade Ayanda Dlodlo accepted the nomination, nominated by 1,103 branches. Comrade Malusi Kikaba accepted the nomination, nominated by 1,075 branches. Comrade Togo Didiza accepted nomination, nominated by 1,057 branches. Umama Unosviwe Mapisa Ngagula akakadibani nathi to indicate her status. If she is in the house, can she kindly go to the front there where the agency staff is and give us an indication? Comrade Blade Nzimande also accepted the nomination. Mamunaledi Pando also accepted the nomination. Comrade Begi Tsele accepted the nomination. Comrade Balega Mbete accepted the nomination. Comrade Zweli Mkhize also accepted the nomination. Comrade Obet Moloi accepted the nomination. Comrade Edna Mulewa accepted the nomination. Comrade Vuiswa Tulelo declined the nomination through an SMS sent through to us. Comrade Lynn Brown also declined the nomination. Comrade Nomsa Dube Ngube akakas indicated status sakhe. If she is present here, can she kindly go to the agency desk and indicate? Comrade Ulindiwe Zulu accepted the nomination. Comrade Batabile Dlamini naye asikakwazi ukumthola to indicate her status. Can she kindly go to the agency desk to indicate her status? Umamusisi Ndombela, she has accepted the nomination. Comrade Jeff Khadebe accepted the nomination. Comrade Aaron Muzwaledi also accepted the nomination. Comrade David Mahlobo accepted the nomination. Comrade Colin Maine accepted the nomination. Comrade Dumo Dlamini accepted the nomination. Mamu Mildred Oliphant accepted the nomination. Mamuthandi Modise accepted the nomination. Comrade Pule Mabe accepted the nomination. Umamu Regina Mahaule accepted the nomination. Umamu Beauty Dlulane accepted the nomination. Comrade Hlengiwe Mkhize accepted the nomination. Utatu Enoch Godongwana accepted the nomination. Comrade Njabulo Nzuza accepted the nomination. Comrade Joe Maswanganyi accepted the nomination. Umamu Enji Museha accepted the nomination. Comrade Derek Anekom also accepted the nomination. Comrade Pingi Kekana is also available. Comrade Tina Yumat Peterson accepted the nomination. Comrade Praveen Godan accepted the nomination. Comrade Jackson Mtembu accepted the nomination. Comrade Zizi Godwa accepted the nomination. Comrade Obed Babela accepted the nomination. Umamu Pam Chwete accepted the nomination. Comrade Umamu Luko Kensani Kubai also accepted the nomination. Comrade Upumulo Maswale accepted the nomination. Comrade Ukasel Matale accepted the nomination. Comrade Utakota Likhwete accepted the nomination. Comrade Faith Mutambi also accepted the nomination. Comrade Umamiki Kabate accepted the nomination, comrades. Comrade Miyoho Matuba accepted the nomination. Comrade Urosina Siminya accepted the nomination. Comrade Sam Mashinini is also available. Comrade Dixon Masimula has accepted the nomination. Comrade KB Mapazwe has accepted the nomination. Comrade Stella Ndabeni Abrahams also accepted the nomination. Comrade Joe Patla accepted the nomination. Umama Nomasigizi Konza Agagatibaninat to indicate a status. Can she kindly come to the front desk if she is here and give us an indication, comrades? Utatu Humphrey Memezi has also accepted nomination. Umamu Gwen Ramokhupa has accepted the nomination. Comrade Musebenzi Zwane has not yet indicated his status with the agency. Can he kindly go to the front to indicate? Comrade Alvin Botes has accepted the nomination. Comrade Mpokuno has accepted the nomination. Comrade Togozile Klasa has accepted the nomination. Umamu Ruth Bengu has accepted the nomination. Comrade Mondli Gungubele has accepted the nomination. Comrade David Masondo. Comrade David Masondo has accepted the nomination. Comrade Siabonga Twele has accepted the nomination. Comrade Ubuti Manamela has also accepted the nomination. Undatumatole Museha has accepted the nomination. Comrade Nokau Mafu has accepted the nomination. Comrade Itumeleng Musala has accepted the nomination. Umamulindi Wesisulu has accepted the nomination. Comrade Wendy Nelson has accepted the nomination. Comrade Dipuo Litsatsi Duba has accepted the nomination. Comrade Zoli Swazo Kota Fredericks has also accepted the nomination. Comrade Barbara Chrissy has accepted the nomination. Comrade Sylvia Lucas has accepted the nomination. Comrade Desmond Muyela has accepted the nomination. Comrade Phoebe Potgieter is not available, comrades. She has declined. Comrade Nomvula Mukonyane has accepted the nomination. Comrade Ulina Malachi has accepted the nomination. Comrade Unontlandla Ngubendaba has also accepted nomination. I've just received an SMS now confirming that Comrade Mcebisi Jonase has accepted the nomination, comrades. Comrade Umlibo Koboshiane has not yet indicated his status with us. If he is present here, can he kindly come to the stage or to the agency desk rather to indicate his status? Comrade Ulirato Dime has accepted the nomination. Comrade Matabo Lieto is still outstanding, no indication yet. Comrade Andile Lungisa, no indication yet. Comrade Tulas Ngesi has accepted the nomination. Comrade Tandi Mahambehlala has accepted. Utatu Figile Khasa has also accepted the nomination. Comrade Mcebisi Skwacha has accepted the nomination. Utatu Gugile Nkwinti has accepted the nomination. Comrade Usfiso Butelezi is still pending. Comrade Usivuile Khaye is still pending. Comrade Utaba Mafumadi is also pending. If they are here, can they kindly come to the front to indicate their status to us? Comrade Usputla Ramukhupa has accepted the nomination. Comrade Usisisi Tolashe has accepted the nomination. Utatu Mabuza David will unfortunately not be able to participate in this round of elections, therefore his name will be struck off. Comrade Ufili Mapulane has accepted the nomination. Comrade Des van Rooyen has accepted the nomination. Umage Ukendith Mashiko Dlamini has accepted the nomination. Comrade Ubongiwe Mbingo Gigaba has also accepted the nomination. Comrade Violet Siwela has accepted. Comrade Carl Niehaus has accepted. Comrade Tembi Siweya, Comrade Richard Baloyi, and Comrade Peggy Nkonyeni, they still need to indicate their availability through to the agency. Comrade Ayanda Matiti has accepted the nomination. Comrade Zingi Swalosi, her status is still pending, comrades. If she's here, kindly come to the front and indicate. Comrade Ngenge Kekana has accepted the nomination. Comrade John Jeffries is still pending indication yake to us. If he's here, kindly come to the front and indicate. Comrade Susan Shabangu has accepted the nomination. Mama Uzolega Kapalanga, Dimbonila Ukona Gagatethi nathi kodwa. Sicela zos-update. Comrade Unwako Ramahloti has accepted the nomination. Comrade Dikeledi Magazi has accepted the nomination. Comrade Umduduzi Manana has accepted the nomination. Comrade Paul Mashatile will unfortunately not feature in this list as he is now an official. Comrade Tony Ngeni has accepted the nomination. Comrade, is it Tate or Tate Pule Mahwe? He still needs to indicate to the agency. Comrade Rudolph Pala has accepted the nomination. Comrade Ufigi Leslovo Machola Agagahlangani in the agency. Can he kindly come to the front and indicate his status? Comrade Tainim Timunye has accepted. Comrade Pemi Majodina has also accepted the nomination. Comrade Lungi Tabashe has accepted the nomination. Comrade Ndombiga is a Sibidla Sapeta. Her indication is still pending, comrades. If she's here, can she kindly indicate to the agency desk? Comrade Rob Davis has declined. Comrade Tabang Makwetla has accepted. Utata Usten Matabata has declined the nomination. Comrade Usindi Chukunga is still pending indication. Comrade Kumbuzo Nchabeni has accepted. Comrade Alfred Nebutanda has accepted. Mamunoma India Mfegeto has accepted the nomination. Comrade Vuyo Mhlagaza has accepted. Comrade Joe Matebula has accepted. Comrade Robert Mashiho has accepted. Comrade Andries Nel, Comrade Neville Mompati, and Comrade Vusi Shongwe. Their status are still pending. If they're here, kindly contact the agency desk and indicate your status. Utatu Mantashe won't feature in this one, unfortunately. Utatu Tito Mboweni has accepted. Comrade Brian Hlongwa has accepted. Comrade Bushima Ape has accepted. Umama Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, sicela indication for this position. Comrade Phumlani Mkolo has also not yet indicated his status. Umama Unomzamo Matigizela Mandela has accepted the nomination. Comrade Dipuo Peters has accepted. Comrade Sakumzi Somyo has not yet indicated to us whether he's available or not. Comrade Pet Chwewu has accepted the nomination. Utata Mike Mabuya Kulu, Comrade Nkosana Dolopu, Mamutandi Muraka, Abakasi indicated status Sabo. If they are here, can they kindly come to the front and indicate? Mama Utenjiwe Mtinzo, Ute Udiniwe comrades, we are declined. Comrade Sue van der Merwe has also declined. Umama Unoxolo Kivit has accepted the nomination. Comrade Dipuo Mvelase, Solima Paila, and Ibrahim Patel, you need to indicate your status to the agency. Umamu Jane Manganya has accepted the nomination. Comrade Joyce Muloe Murupa has accepted the nomination. Comrade Lindiwe Masego has accepted. Comrade Justice Pizzo has accepted. Comrade Piwe Nyanda, Comrade Cyril Klaba, and Comrade Tabo Manyoni, you still need to come and indicate at the front whether you are available for the additional members' positions. Comrade Stoli Lemehlomakulu accepted. Comrade Dikele Ditsotezi has a status is pending. Comrade Udingan Mahlalela Myolwa has also not gotten in touch with the agency. Comrade Justin Di Alende has accepted. Tatu Billy Masetla has accepted. Comrade Ibrahim Rasul, Comrade Fish Mahlalela, Comrade Kenny Murolong, you need to indicate your status to the agency. Comrade Patrick Mutubaze has accepted. Comrade Nhlanhla Nene has not yet indicated his availability. Comrade Maite Ngwana Mashabane has accepted the nomination. Comrade Peter Skosana, Kenny Muyemang, and Comrade Michael Peter, you still need to contact us and let us know where you stand with regards to the nomination. Comrade Doris Lagude has accepted. Comrade Sandy Lenoklina, no indication yet. Comrade Mandla Ngomfe has accepted. Comrade Shamei Harvard, Comrade Paul P. Ramatuba have not yet indicated their status with us. Utatu Senzeni Zogwana has accepted the nomination. Comrade Jerindo, you have not yet indicated your status. Comrade Bongani Thomas Bongo has accepted. Comrade Bandile Masuku has accepted. Comrade Miriam Sikhabutla has accepted. Comrade Siaparo Sikwati, Busi Matulare Coleman, Maite Maruta, Khozo Sisele, Patricia Kumalo, Dumi Muilwa, Sbongile Pesani, Nati Mtetwa, Bavelile Hlongwane, Divet Munakedi. All the above comrades still need to come and indicate their status with us. Comrade Panyaza Lusufi has accepted the nomination. The following comrades have not yet indicated their status: Comrade Abna Musase, Zukisa Sherili Fagu, Marion Sparks, Johnny Dilange, Pule Maile, Tembi Muoko, and Chaini Chotelo. They still need to come and indicate their status to us. Comrade David Makura has declined the nomination. Comrade Sasekani, Manzini, Comrade Zolega Mtinzo, Comrade Philip Dexter, Comrade Mani Dipicho, and Comrade Sponiso Duma. You still need to get in touch with the agency and indicate your availability. I've just received a confirmation.
Right, so we're coming away from the nominations process of the NEC members, and it's quite a long list. And if you'd like to know what the full list is, then please go to our website, sabc.com, and also at SABC News Online. You'll be able to get a comprehensive list there. But just to try and make some sense of the results that we saw earlier on, that saw Cyril Ramaphosa head the ticket, but it was split 50-50. Our acting political editor, Sophie Mkwena, has been following this story for some time now. And today, you know, a lot of people may be surprised, but was it a surprise actually?
It wasn't a surprise for me because clearly people were kind of discussing, and we knew in terms of provinces, the balance of forces. The second issue is that we knew that Mpumalanga not pronouncing, it was going to be difficult for people to really indicate what's likely to happen. But the other issue is you have some leaders who have been in provinces as chairpersons who were working very hard to now to move from provinces to national. They were discussing behind the scenes. You know very well that constantly the chairpersons of provinces had meetings, and it is for that reason when you look at the results, it speaks to those meetings.
All right, so women didn't do well on this election.
Earlier on, I spoke to Minister Nomvula Mkonyane, and I said to her, do you regret not supporting Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma in Polokwane? Because if women had rallied behind Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma in Polokwane as the deputy president of the ANC, she could be finishing her second term as the head of state. Because if Mbeki had been a president of the ANC, there was no way he could have been the president of the country because of the constitution. So I think women must learn. And this time around again, as they do that, they don't consult other women, and the women vote. I told you about Enji Mutsecha and the others, was divided.
So they may have to wait 10 years possibly to get another woman on the ticket.
It's going to be very, very difficult. Today, we talk about the regress. Only one woman in the top 6, and the Deputy Secretary General. Therefore, there's a regress. You can imagine the message the ANC is communicating to the country, to the continent, and
well, people talk about this mythical Premier League, whether it exists or not. From what we've seen,
the result speaks to that. It does exist. Is Mashatile very close to Didi? People would ask why not Supra there. Supra is the chair of Northwest. This is his first term as the Premier of Northwest. Therefore, he wants a second term as the Premier of Northwest. And for him, he knew very well that he doesn't have to fight to be in the NEC or in the top 6, because he has to finish his term in the province. But you can see that Ace Magashule is in, Didi Mabuza is in.
Why has KwaZulu-Natal lost out?
I think you must know politics. You have to be a senior politician. They miscalculated, and unfortunately, they were punished. It is the biggest province, not even a single official was elected a person who represents the biggest province. Gauteng, you have Free State, you have Mpumalanga, and Eastern Cape. And remember, Eastern Cape, they nominated Cyril Ramaphosa. Limpopo did the same. Northern Cape did the same. Western Cape did the same. So, indeed, KZN the biggest loser.
So the party is going to say unity won. That's the story that they're going to try and spin. But would you say that the Premier League slate was the bigger winner or the Cyril Ramaphosa?
I think the Cyril Ramaphosa won. You have Cyril Ramaphosa, you have Paul Mashatile, you have Gwede Mantashe, and I know Jessie will always ensure that she keeps balance in terms of issues. I can't see her outright belonging to a faction this time around. And it is for that reason I'm saying, in terms of balance of forces, I think it did help also to do away with slates, because you have both Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma slate and Ramaphosa slate. Unfortunately, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is not there. And I was inside there. I could see how, you know, she is hurting. And I saw Ramaphosa after, you know, the announcement. He was crying. And it speaks to the pain, because when they were campaigning, they had to deal with lots of things behind the scenes. And I think finally the delegates have spoken, even though there has been some influence in terms of some of the leaders to ensure that the outcome represents what it represents
All right,
now.
perhaps finally, what's going to happen in the coming week or so? What kind of decision are going to be made?
To recall President Zuma, it's going to be difficult. Yes, they negotiate with him nicely to say, Mr. President, we have to hit the ground running to undo the damage, to prepare for 2019. Let's say smooth transition. Use that as an excuse.
All right, Sophie, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Thank you very much indeed for your insights, certainly as a political editor who's been watching this for some time. So there you have it. We'll continue more analysis. Leanne, I know you're standing by with some guests there in the studio.
Indeed, Peter, I think that people wanting to hear analysis of everything that we've just heard here, the top six, and we all have our own opinions and views, but let's get the opinions of the experts that have been talking to us throughout the day. I mean, throughout the day, we've just been speculating and guessing and putting different scenarios through, but the reality is we now have the facts in front of us, so we can actually speak with a lot more certainty. We haven't heard your opinion as yet. You've just joined us now. We've been speaking to you all day about what happens, what if, but now we know. How are you feeling? What do you make of this top six?
Well, in the first place, for the last 2 months, I've been quite consistent to say that it's a close one, but Cyril Ramaphosa has the edge. And the top six might be an expression of trying to unify and bring people from different factions, but unfortunately, it ends up kicking out women who seem to be in a weaker position at this stage, much because they also had fielded many candidates. They came as a divided lot until the very last minute. And also KZN have been a fierce battle zone and a divided province again. That in itself has also eliminated, for the first time, you have the largest province not represented in the top six. And also what is most important here is the fact that the closeness of the outcome means you do have almost a half divided ANC, and the leadership has to work very hard to bring that ANC and also to bring those who felt alienated by the ANC.
Which is the big task at hand now for the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, because if we look at this top six and we look at allegiances going into all of this, I mean, we can almost assume that it is a 50-50 split, that you have your supporters on the Zuma camp and the Ramaphosa. I mean, if you look at this, you know, how is this going to work? I mean, can they work together? Belani, do you want to comment on it?
Look, yes. I mean, the ANC has a way of pulling together, but I was just thinking back now to what happened in Mangasene and even to Polokwane, and the top six was not as divided as this at all. In fact, Prof, I think they were all almost behind, with the exception maybe of Cyril, well, even he was, right? Was behind Zuma. So what we're seeing now, for the first time, is this very divided top six. Of course, the top six became more divided towards the end of the Zuma era, but in the beginning they were not. So this is going to be, and we've been saying this over the last few days, no matter who was going to win, their challenge was going to be to now get this ANC together again, because, you know, the one thing they don't want is a split. I have to say, something I've also been saying for a while is, if we get this kind of unity slate, this mixed slate, on the one hand, the negativity of it is that it could be a bit paralyzing. It's difficult for Ramaphosa now to say completely, I'm going to clean out, because he has some problematic people, if you want to call it, they on the top six. But on the other hand, what it most probably will indicate is that there will not be a split in the ANC, something that a lot of people have been watching. It's hard to see, how do you split now, you know? Even from the Zuma side, that they will not split, which would indicate certainly, you know, that they will do quite well at the polls at 2019. And I have to say, most probably the DA tonight might be people who would not be so happy, because they would look at this and go, oh, maybe we've got a bit of problems now.
Yeah, although they're all coming out now saying, gosh, I mean, now they've taken a new angle, split down the middle. How can a party like this work together? Now you're going to see the factions banging heads against each other. Before we cross over to Kimberley, we've got our reporter who's waiting for us. I'm sure you want to add your voice to this. I mean, because this is the talking point right now.
Yes, I do think that during the campaign period, ANC tend to be very vicious in terms of splits. But after the campaign, knowing that they have an existential challenge of 2019 elections, they may try to rally together. You could almost see that Didi Mabuza was no longer located within a faction. He was talking a unity language. He was even saying, I have been one of the leading people in dividing the organization. So such persons are likely to say that let's have a united ANC. But also, let's not forget that the top National Executive Committee of the ANC will define definitively the balance of forces or how it's going to lean. So we should not exclude that, because at the times of recall, at the times of determining the direction of the organization, the National Executive Committee is far more critical in imposing pressure on the top six.
All right. Dr. Fikeni, we'll pick you up in 1 second. We'll carry on this conversation, but let's check in with our provinces now and see how the celebrations are taking place, because everybody's been waiting for this announcement around the country. So let's go to Kimberley now and find out how things are going on over there. So we've got our reporter Puleng standing by. Puleng, a very good evening to you. How are the people of Northern Cape feeling?
Good evening. Yes, I'm in the heart of Galeshewe Township, and here people are all excited about their winning candidate of choice. They are saying that they are hoping that their candidate will be able to come with development in Kimberley. Yes. So I'm going to chat to a couple of them just to check with them how they are feeling about the outcome. Can you please just in short explain to us, how are you feeling? I've been seeing you singing all day.
Now we are happy about the outcome, and we are happy the conference was peaceful. We are happy about the outcome. We accept it, and so far we are happy, especially for Cyril Ramaphosa to be the president, because it's what we wanted in this country, to change so that we get rid of those Gupta cases and the other court cases. But we are happy.
And then you, sir, you look like you want to say something. How are you feeling?
No, I'm very much excited. Let me be honest. Very much happy always. The Northern Cape has been leading. The Northern Cape is the first one even to announce that CR70 will be the president of this country. As all you are saying that we are standing behind our leader, we will continually stand against Cyril Ramaphosa. Amanda, Cyril, Amanda.
Well, you can see, is a lot of excitement in the air here in Kimberley. But earlier we managed to speak to quite a couple of people who were saddened by the fact that their candidate did not win. But now here, as you can see, the people are happy here. They are saying that their candidate is going to come with change and development in the Northern Cape. Back to the studio.
That is celebrating on another level. Look at that. So much excitement. And I don't think that that is necessarily the only province and the only people that are very, very happy that the results are in. But who knows? I suppose everybody had their preferences. But let's take you back now. I think everybody is coming down, reeling down from that excitement about the different announcements. And let's take you through them one by one. We've got our analysts in studio with us, Dr. Somadore Fikeni and Melanie Verwoerd. After the announcement, we'll then, of course, get their opinions again. So let's relive that moment when the new president of the ANC was announced earlier this evening.
And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma received 2261 votes, and Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa received 2440 votes. We declare Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the new president of the African National Congress.
How the results came out, and there's images of the winners, the victors, and perhaps a forlorn look of Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. And I guess in many ways, this has been a very long journey for Cyril Ramaphosa. If we go back to the Mandela era, when there was this talk that he was the chosen one, but Thabo Mbeki came in and he seemed to have disappeared for some time. So when he's taking all of this in, it's been 2 decades, but he...
Certainly, I do think that he had ventured into politics and was realizing what was almost the top when he was endorsed by Nelson Mandela, but he couldn't make it. He went into business. He made it big there. And the only avenue that was left now was a political career to take him beyond where he was. Finally, after such a bitter contest, a fiercely contested contest, what is almost a photo finish, he has now finally made it. Yeah. And I guess the emotions come out of that. At times, this was a very vicious and with dirty tricks in the process. Each one of the candidates do have bruises, and they'll have to work on a healing process and recovery.
It's quite a telling year as well for him to move into. I mean, next year, the centenary, Madiba would have turned 100 years old. And this entire year dedicated to him. Obviously, we've seen the memory of O.R. Tambo being remembered this year, but next year, that memory of Madiba with Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC. I mean, this has to be symbolic if there ever was symbolism.
You know, I'm thinking back now on the day that we adopted the final constitution, and of course it was just after that that Cyril Ramaphosa left to go to business, you know, that Madiba announced that he will leave Parliament to go into business. And I remember bumping into him in the halls of Parliament and saying, I'm really sad that you are leaving. And he said, well, maybe one day I will be back. And a few years later, when I was ambassador in Ireland, he traveled with Madiba to the Special Olympics there. And I had a long chat with him then and said, you know, I do hope you are coming back at some point. Well, he didn't want to commit at all. And he said, but maybe, but you really got a sense, even at that time, that was he was playing the long game. He was going to wait. You know, and many people for a long time have asked, why doesn't he stand up? Why doesn't he challenge him? Why didn't he earlier, you know, like do... He was always playing the long game. He understood how to play that really, really long game. It was tight. It was very close. But I think we can, you know, there was always a sense of destiny that he was meant to be this. And, you know, I think also we need to pause for a moment and also think that he was the man who, together with Rolf Meyer, brought us, you know, through away from the brink of the abyss prior to 1994 and helped, you know, so much, played such a phenomenal role in getting that final constitutional deal. Let's remember, you know, how the AWB stormed the Kempton Park negotiations, how we didn't know, you know, right up to the end whether everything was going to be fine, and what a key role he played in it. I mean, I certainly have the wish that we will go back more now to a more sort of the old values of the ANC and also the old values of Madiba, you know, the non-racialism, etc. Question is, can he do this with this, you know, divided top
so,
six?
Prof, I'm looking at the other side of the story, and that's Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. And again, I look to Hillary Clinton, who spent her entire career in service, public service, working for the people, and building up the credentials to take over that position. And at the last hurdle, it was snatched away from her. Have we seen the end maybe for Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma? Is she going to retire, write her memoirs? What happens now for somebody who's done everything else except the big one?
Well, I do think that she'll remain a respected senior member of the society. She might even get into international arena given her experience as the AU. But what might be so for her is how close she was in Polokwane as the deputy president candidate, which was going to make her a president of the country because Thabo Mbeki constitutionally could not have served a third term in government, and how women rejected her because she was close to Mbeki. This time around, how close she was and how the ANC members might have rejected her because she was closer to Jacob Zuma.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a telling story about the weakness of the Women's League and the women agenda in the country, because it's not just this experience. Leading to this, the work that had been done to women as premiers had been wiped out, and it had now become more masculine again. And now leading to this, the most interesting thing again was the fact that it was not much about a gender discourse or a women's right discourse. It was your conventional generic economic transformation discourse. And mainly it was male dominated. And the time has come when women have to sit down and do a bit of soul searching, and the society itself.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what's happened now, and we're going to be looking at the clip now with the announcement of the deputy president. So we had 2 women in the running for the top positions within the ANC, both president and deputy president. They lost out on both of those roles. In fact, we've only got 1 woman in the top 6 now, which is showing us once again that women are not necessarily getting ahead the way that the ANC has promised and wanted to see women get ahead. I mean, do we have to wait another 10 years to see a woman perhaps take over? Or, I mean, now we can see our deputy president of the ANC, David Mabuza, moving into that role as the president of the ANC. Who knows? We might have to wait longer. You know, what do you make of this, where women's roles are now a bit blurry in this in the ANC?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is very, very sad. I think that we are back at this place again, you know, and you know that the only woman that's in the top 6 is in a very junior position. It's the most junior position on the top 6, and I think that is extremely unfortunate. And I agree with Prof that, I mean, the one parallel also with Hillary Clinton is that both of them were dealing with husbands. Well, in Nkosazana Dlamini's case, it's an ex-husband. It's even worse, you know, but that they could not shake that past off their shoulders. And of course, one can legitimately ask, you know, would that have been the same problem for a man, you know, if the reverse was true? And I do, I do think it is very sad, and I do think, yes, we're going to wait a very long time. Although it is not necessarily a given or anything in law that, of course, the Didi Mabuza must become the deputy president of the country, it is very much the practice, and I think it wouldn't go down well in the ANC if that is not the case. Strictly speaking, of course, whoever becomes the president, so Cyril Ramaphosa, whenever he becomes the president of the country, can choose whoever he wants to. But I think it will be a bit of a bitter pill for the ANC not to have him there.
Well, Ronald Damola and the young people, the young Turks are saying, look, this is the last time they're going to let elder people into the room, and so the equation's going to be completely different in 10 years' time, that's for sure. But then we moved on to the deputy president position, and David Mabuza came through. Lindiwe Sisulu was, of course, on the Cyril slate, and this was the first time we got a hint that maybe the slate story was behind us.
The next position is that of Deputy President. The outcome of the voting for this position is as follows. We received 7 spoiled ballots and 4 abstentions, and the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade David Mabuza, 2538 votes. Comrade Lindiwe Sisulu, 2159 votes. Comrade David Mabuza is the new Deputy President of the African National Congress. Comrade David, please come up to the stage.
Well, I must say, we had said from the beginning of the run-up to these elections that this man was the kingmaker, that this was the province that was going to be the kingmaker and the decider in all of this. And look what happened. He made himself the king. I mean, by the widest margin of votes. And let's not kid. These margins are very, very small when you come to when you look at the calculations between these different candidates. So he won by 424 votes. That's the margin that he won by against Lindiwe Sisulu. So Didi Mabuza, Dr. Fikeni, let's talk about him.
He took the gamble, and he crafted one of the most complicated, genius strategy to get to the top. One, not revealing which candidate he was supporting, and he started talking unity. He started inviting all other premiers, raising his profile to talk about this unity, and he didn't shy away from simply saying, I am one of the people who was the leading persons in dividing the organization. Now I'm a changed person. That in itself, I think it worked for him, and it paid off in a big way.
Lindiwe Sisulu, do you think that she might have benefited had she declared a deputy role right from the beginning?
Most probably, yes. I mean, I think, and I understood from a gender perspective why she didn't, that she said, why is there always the assumption that we have to go for deputy instead of for the top? And she ran a very powerful race for a little while there, for a short while. And most probably if she had declared, I think part of the problem was also that she then wouldn't accept to come onto Cyril Ramaphosa's slate for a long time. And I think that rubbed people up the wrong way for a while. She could have benefited most probably from a very strong position on the Cyril slate. I think also if she had she and William Kize from the start had spoken a little bit better, that might have helped as well, because for a long time, of course, in the Cyril provinces, they were also splitting each other's votes. Most probably she could have. But, if we look at the slate, it just also looks like people were, Didi Mabuza played a very interesting role all the time, and as we have said before, particularly the Eastern Cape was the real sign where Cyril Ramaphosa got 87% or something of the nomination, and Didi Mabuza got only 3 votes less than Zweli Mkhize for the deputy position, and that was then when the lights went on. This is a different ballgame, that he had succeeded in getting cross-provincial support.
2 quick questions. Firstly, you mentioned William Kize. If he was still in that position running for the deputy president, would it have been a much different picture, or do you still think Didi Mabuza would have gone and taken the deputy president position?
I think he would have still got it, in fact, most probably with a higher margin, because he
margin.
would have split some of Lindiwe Sisulu's vote.
Dr. Fikeni, do you the same way?
Well, I do think that he might have gotten it with a reduced margin, but Mkhize and Sisulu are interesting role players here. Mkhize had positioned himself as a compromise candidate between Cyril and Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. But when it became very clear that the positions were so polarized, there was no appetite for talking the third candidate. He ought to have made his choice right from the beginning. And also Lindiwe Sisulu, I want to mention the fact that when she seemed to attack Mantashe, that didn't sit very well. Those were in the Cyril Ramaphosa slate.
And then there was that exile thing, which was a problem.
And the exile-insile situation. And one other thing that we might be witnessing at this stage, it's another generation of leadership. When Nelson Mandela came in, it was the Robben Island generation at the top. When Thabo Mbeki came in, it was the political exile component. When Zuma came in, it became the exile military component. And now we are moving into the insiles, inserting themselves as the leaders.
Just one quick question before we take a look at the next announcement, and that, of course, is the issue of Mpumalanga, that unity vote. Did those go to Ramaphosa, do you think?
Can you come again?
The Mpumalanga vote.
Yes.
That went to Ramaphosa.
No, I don't actually think it did. I mean, in my view, if you looked at the numbers beforehand, if the unity votes went to Ramaphosa, he should have won with a much bigger margin.
Okay.
And by winning only by this less than 180 votes, it actually looks like the majority of them had gone, if we can trust the nomination process, that the majority of them would have gone to Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma.
All right.
All right. So then came the position of the national chairperson. And it seemed to all that this wasn't going to be a surprise. Let's hear the announcement first and get a view.
And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Gwede Mantashe at 2418 votes, and Comrade Nati Mtetwa at 2269. The new national chairperson is Comrade Gwede Mantashe. Would the comrade please come to the fore?
So Gwede Mantashe there being promoted in some way, I guess, to a national chairperson. And I guess the power of top six incumbency kind of worked for him, even though this top six really did have challenges. He was visible, he was memorable, and perhaps that helped him across the line?
Actually, I do think that of the Secretary Generals that we've seen in the recent past, he presided over the ANC during the most difficult time, but his character, his presence, seemed to prevail against all odds. So his profile was already solid compared to Mtetwa, who was challenging him. Hence, at one point, both slates felt that they needed to have Mantashe. He also has an appeal to the Labour and the Alliance Partnership, being in the SACP, being in COSATU in the past. And also the other provinces like Gauteng, the Eastern Cape and so forth would have strongly backed him. So to that extent, I do think that anyone who was going to challenge and win over him would do something extraordinary.
The interesting thing is, of course, that the national chairperson is not a full-time position. So it's going to be interesting. Remember, this is the position that Baleka Mbete had and became Speaker of Parliament. And today in the press conference, they were joking with him about whether he is going to become Speaker of the House. Of course, it's not a natural thing that this is going to happen, but it would be interesting to see if the ANC is going to deploy him somewhere else as well, and what that, what that something else would be.
Fascinating. So, Natim Tetwa, is he just too young and too new at the block? What went wrong for him?
Well, I do think that one, being in the losing side does somehow, even though it's a split, rub off, because you begin to see the margin of losing. It's more or less the same margin that Cyril and Nkosazana, the gap between them. And secondly, he's still relatively young. He's from the ranks of the Youth League in the early 90s. He still has time, to bounce back. And he was also coming from a province that was, deeply divided. And maybe his proximity to President Zuma at the times, at the critical moments, this anti-establishment surge, which was balanced, of course, by those who wanted a different direction, might have actually impacted on his campaign.
All right, so just finally, so that we get a sense, it's not a full-time position. Is it a powerful position to be national chairperson?
Yes, and it's very symbolic. I think that's more it. It's a symbolic position. It is regarded with a lot of respect. And yeah, no, I mean, it is powerful, definitely powerful. Not as powerful, obviously, as the deputy or as powerful as the Secretary General. In the hierarchy, it comes higher up as the Secretary General, but in praxis, it works out slightly differently.
All right, let's now move on to the next position. And this position was so highly contested that it was only separated by a mere 24 votes. We're talking about that position of Secretary General of the ANC. Take a look at this clip.
The next position, Secretary General, at spoiled ballots totaling 4 votes and 8 abstentions. And the votes are as follows. Comrade Ace Mahashule at 2360 votes. Comrade Senzo Mkunu, 2336 votes.
I have to say, the celebrations when you saw Ace Mahashule being called up, I don't know, but I think this had to be the biggest celebration of them all. The crowd went crazy here. Ace Mahashule coming into this position. Let's talk about this because this is a difficult one, I think, for Cyril Ramaphosa to be handling as the president. What are your views here?
I think both the Mabuza and the Ace Mahashule one is difficult. I mean, and also given the fact that Ace Mahashule has just been ruled out of order twice by the courts, and said no. Not only was it the first time round was there problems with the branches, but then the second time round as well. I mean, he is, of course, he's controversial in the ANC, very controversial. And of course, it's going to be interesting. He is the serving chairperson in the ANC. Is it 23, 25 years or something like that, a quarter of a century almost now. And he seems to control the Free State, very, very strongly. It was always interesting that with the original branch nominations, it looked like he was ahead. Then when they got rid of some of the, when some can win, it looked again like Senzo was going to make it. Senzo himself, of course, also being in a difficult position in KZN. So both of those actually, ironically, are embroiled in court cases around their own PECs. But this one is going to be tricky. And I think the fact that there's only 24 votes difference also shows controversy around particularly Ace in the Free State.
I want to read a comment very quickly that I've just seen coming out from the one and only Julius Malema. He's just taken to Twitter right now, and I think that this is going to be nicely posing a question to Dr. Fikeni. Julius Malema saying, nothing has really changed. The core of the corrupt Premier League is at the center of the organization. The Guptas are still in charge, and as a result, it'll be difficult to recall Zuma. Don't get easily excited over nothing, but I'm happy that Zuma ate a humble pie. So let's talk about this, because I mean, Ace Magashule and Mabuza, the Premier League, they're still there, as one Julius Malema is saying. What do you make of this?
I think the opposition has a mixed mind over this. They might actually celebrate that some of the leaders of the ANC have some association with the Guptas, and when you have the state cabinet or commission coming in, some of them may be coming in to testify at the time when the opposition might be preparing its arsenal for elections in 2019. And that in itself, they may also raise the question of why President Zuma is not being recalled when he starts dealing with his court cases and putting pressure. That's why it now boils down to the NEC of the ANC as to how it will be. If not, then indeed you'll have an awkwardly composed top six in dealing with the issue of the corruption, state capture, and President Zuma.
I have to say, for once, I tend to agree with Julius Malema here, and that's very rare for me to agree with Juju. But, you know, I think if, for me, this, and I wrote about this beforehand, that the top six, with the exception of Cyril Ramaphosa, I think that was always a possibility of a plan B for President Zuma. That was always, they could always live with Gwede Mantashe, because he's, you know, as we know, he Mantashes a bit, and he's okay for the Zuma camp. And Paul Mashatile, of course, we know had been in discussions in any case with Didi Mabuza for a long time, you know, about how to try and get to a compromise. So I think this was never, both Gwede Mantashe and Paul Mashatile was never a problem for the Zuma camp. The thing that I think that went wrong from their perspective was in fact then that Cyril Ramaphosa got in, and I think they would argue largely because of those court cases, because of the difference in those votes. So this, for me, I think Juju has got something there going there, that he, you know, this is, to a large extent, keeps a lot of the Premier League issues and the Zuma camp issues and positions and powers in place.
All right, so we're mindful of time, so we're going to race through the last two. Deputy Secretary General, and this is how Jesse Duarte continued in her position.
The position of Deputy Secretary General. Again, we received 4 spoiled ballots with 17 abstentions, and the distribution is as follows. Comrade Jesse Duarte, 2474 votes, and Comrade Zingiswa Losi, 2213. Comrade Jesse Duarte retains her position.
Victory there for Jesse Duarte, and I suppose it solved a bit of a headache for the ANC, because just a week ago, Jesse Duarte was talking about the ANC losing its racial character, non-racial character, and also they managed to get at least one woman on the top six. So they killed 2 birds with 1 stone with Jesse Duarte.
Well, I do think that the issue of minorities within the ANC is one of their biggest headache at the moment, because they seem over time to have lost quite a number of prominent persons, not just in the top 6, but in their provincial structures, in their government structures. They'll have to do something. The reason for losing the Western Cape was, again, not being able to deal with the demographic features of the region, but not having minorities well represented in a meaningful way that lives up to the non-racial, dimension. So Cyril and others will have to do an extraordinary job, and that has to be done in a deliberate, purposeful manner when you are actually crafting your leadership, your deployments, your appointments, to say you need to have that diversity and translate it later into your political capital when you are campaigning for elections.
Right. We've run out of time, so Leanne, do you want to take us through the last position?
I think we need to to get into that last position, because we're about to say goodnight to everybody from here. But let's take a look now at that moment where the Treasurer General was announced of the ANC.
The very last position for Treasurer General, we received 6 spoiled ballots and 7 abstentions. And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Paul Mashatile at 2517 votes. And Comrade Maite Nkwana Mashabane at 2178 votes. Comrade Paul Mashatile is the new Treasurer General.
So this announcement coming with a lot of mixed reaction from people just trying to sort of get their heads around Treasurer General Paul Mashatile, taking into account what he did in Gauteng and with Gauteng, and now moving into this major position of Treasurer General, which is a very big position. Do you think he's the right guy for the job? Dr. Fikena, what do you think?
Well, I do think that he has the profile, he has the networks, because a lot of fundraising is needed, a lot of building relationship with the business sector is needed, because campaigns have become a lot more expensive. And again, it's another case of a person like Ace Magashule, who have built their base within their provinces for a very long time. They needed to outgrow their provincial bases and evolve into the next stage. So in that sense, I do think that he will actually fit the bill. But again, there are major issues being raised about the party funding once it becomes a transparent process, because the relationship between business and politics is still one of those very challenging aspects of our South African body politic.
When I look at Maite Nkwana Mashabane, when we looked at the nominations, she got Paul Mashatile got 1,581 branches, Maite only 270. Do you think that her vote was finally pushed up to these amazing heights by the slate?
Most probably, yes, and clearly there was a push then in this case for women, but didn't succeed in that either. I mean, she's controversial again in government. She's given some strange interviews, etc. I think Paul wasn't a surprise. I think we always thought he was going to make it. Just on a lighter note, Peter, I'm also really interested in who actually had those 4, or in one case it was 6, but those 4 spoiled ballots that consistently came through.
We'll find
4
them.
Spoiled ballots. So I wish we can find out who that was.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there as well. But to both of you, thank you very, very much indeed, Professor Samadoda Fikeni and Melanie Favut. Always great having you. Thank you so much.
And most importantly, thank you. Thank you very, very much for watching. I know that it was exciting for you as it was for all of us. Have a wonderful evening. And now you can go on holiday. You know the results. Yes. The curiosity is over. And now the hard work begins for the top 6. And of course, we'll hear who the new NEC are as well tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you for watching.
And special assignments coming up shortly. Stand by for that.
I have not recognized anyone other than the comrade from Mpumalanga.
Yeah, thanks. Chairperson, we are requesting for a recount.
I have not recognized anyone other than the comrade from Mpumalanga.
Yeah, thanks for. Chairperson. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. As Mpumalanga, I think we are comfortable with the names that are appearing.
on the list.
Thank you so much, Mpumalanga. Northern Cape. Northern Cape. Northern Cape, do you wish to make further nominations from the floor? Please go ahead and make your submission.
Yeah, we would like to nominate after Northern Cape. And we request the recount on the issue of Limpopo, please.
Excuse me, sir?
We are requesting recount as Limpopo on the name of Majola, because the name we believe it will go through, because we are not counted here as Limpopo. Your people did not count us. So we are requesting recount on that name. Thank you.
Comrades, at this point in time, I have recognized someone from Northern Cape. I have recognized someone from Northern Cape. Can we have a nomination from Northern Cape? Go ahead, Northern Cape.
The mic is, I'm Deshi Nganga. I'm the Provincial Secretary of the Northern Cape Province. We want to propose the name of Thembi Machola. Thank you very much.
25% support for the name of Thembi Machola. Orderly so, comrades. Agency staff, kindly count all the delegates that are seated. Kindly count all the delegates that are seated and are raising their name tags. Anyone seated and is raising their voting delegate tag, count them. Only the seated delegates. Comrades, can we quickly try and make it faster, that side? Please. When we have order, we will do things in the right manner.
Good evening and welcome to yet another special edition of Special Assignment. It is a Monday, but it's a Monday that's a bit different. It's a Monday where the ANC has made the announcement and the ANC has decided who the next leader is, and that leader is Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, with 5 other ANC members who form part of the ANC top 6. Let me just quickly see whether we can give you a glimpse of what took place earlier on with the election results that were announced.
And the distribution of votes is as follows. Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma received 2261 votes, and Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa received 2440 votes. We declare Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the new president of the African National Congress. May I request Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa to come to the stage, please?
Okay. Well, there you have it. Scenes of jubilation earlier on here at the plenary at Nasrec as the ANC made that announcement that Cyril Ramaphosa has been the one who's been elected by the delegates here who were part of the voting delegates, just over 4,770 voting delegates who are part of the voting that took place here in Nasrec. The ANC has a new president. Let me just quickly introduce my guest. First of all, let's start with the ANC Youth League. Just what do you make of that announcement? What does this mean for the ANC Youth League, considering on the other side, the ANC Youth League said that it wanted Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma to be the president of the ANC?
Well, thanks for having us and greetings to the viewers at home. Firstly, we must affirm that we accept the outcome of Congress. We support the elected leadership, including the president, Comrade Ramaphosa. So this says to us that the branches of the ANC, who are the final arbiters on election of leadership, have decided, but most importantly, they have said to us that we need to work together. As you would call that, there were two main lobbying groups towards Congress. So these branches have said that it is time that we unite, because they appreciate that the ANC is the only hope for South Africans. So if we are sort of fighting, we are not able to render services to the people of South Africa. So we don't have an issue, no comms. We have accepted the leadership. We congratulate the officials as elected.
Mm-hmm. Would you be able to give us some insights what happened earlier on, just ahead of the announcement? The announcement was expected just around 6 o'clock, but there was a long delay. We were told that there was a recount. Would you be able to bring us some insights into that?
No, I will not be knowing that because I was not part of the people who are counting. I was outside. What I know is that we as delegates have been waiting for results, and they came. So even the Electoral Commission did not say that they did a recount. Mm-hmm. So we will not know.
It was certainly a tight race as well, and people are saying that you need to applaud Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, considering the margins between the two people. What does this mean, considering that she's received so many votes, and for the first time, of course, you had an ANC female cadre who was on the ballot in the running to becoming president, and the race was that tight?
Well, you know, I don't think it's important for us to talk about what does that mean. The contest is over. What we need to focus on, in our view, is where we go from now. Mm-hmm. And having gotten the instructions from the branches of the ANC to work together as people in the leadership, what we need to do is to heed the call by the branches of the ANC. It's time for the ANC to unite and lead South Africans.
Mm. Professor Siposepe, let me bring you in here. Considering how tight the race was, it was really, really close. Even on most of these nominations as well, considering the other candidates as well. What does this mean for the ANC?
Well, I think if you consider that we started with 7 candidates, and towards the end, the race was, the contest was very ferocious and very intense. But the manner in which, towards the end, the members of the ANC were able to manage themselves, I would say what we should say is that the ANC must take credit for rising to the challenge. One of the challenges that they started well with the president giving a political report, because we had become used to disruptions whenever the president speaks. So you saw members of the ANC saying, this is our president, he may be outgoing, we may have issues with him, but we are going to allow him to speak. So he set a very wonderful tone. And even in the end, he started saying, comrades, we have a struggle and we're still comrades. And in a sense, he sort of sobered people up, because there was already a lot of, instead of ideological contestation, it had become almost a space of insult. So I think it started well. And today, like you say, the Nkosazana grouping, or as the president of the Youth League indicated, that you had 2 camps. Mm-hmm. But somehow the challenge was, would you be able to accept the outcome? And the fact that it was so close it is still remarkable that they were able to accept those outcomes.
And certainly listening to Colin Maine now and saying that we accept the outcomes and they will foster around the leadership that has been elected. I guess that's certainly important because after all there will be the hangover of what has transpired here.
Yeah, but what has made it easier is when one must not look at the president alone. You must look at the top six in totality. Because what the delegates were saying, and it was also something that was worrying, because every time you saw what they call slates, there was a sense of division, almost like the two camps cannot find each other. But the delegates sent a very clear message that what we want here is unity, but we also want continuity. So you saw the president being elected, and all groupings saying he is our president, despite the ferocity of the campaign. Secondly, they said, well, on the other side, there was a person called Mabuza who was seen more as belonging to a different camp. Says we're going to team at the level of presidency. And then you have Gwede, who was also seen to be the other side. Then they brought in Ace. So what you see is a serious balance, but also you see an element of continuity in terms of both Gwede as well as Jesse Duarte, who were also on different sides. So I think for me, the message of unity has come out very strong, but also the idea that says we're not going to throw away people with experience. Yeah. So you have three people with who are part of the previous top six.
Yeah. Let me just quickly bring in Colin Maine in here because he needs to leave. Young people, where are they? The criticism has been there against the ANC Youth League as well, in terms of the nomination as well, that there was no young person. The youngest person that you had nominated was Fikile Mbalula, and unfortunately that position of second deputy secretary general did not even transpire.
Well, you would know that this Congress is going to elect the NEC, not the top six. The top six is just but part of the National Executive Committee. And we're happy that 90% of the delegates into this Congress are young people. What we have done as the Youth League after the announcement is that we must call everybody. We agree that we may have differed in terms of leadership preference, but all young people from all the provinces, let's come together and agree that we support each other such that the overall outlook of the National Executive Committee must reflect some presence of young people. We've been pushing for 40% representation, but it is possible that we can go beyond that.
That you can go beyond the 40%. A final one, will there ever be a time in the life of Colin Maine where we will see a young person being part of the ANC's top officials? Now, not speaking about the 80 NEC members, right there on top.
Well, young people, if you look into the statistics, it indicates that the South African population is very young. I think it's a struggle that all of us as young people must engage with. This is not the last Congress of the ANC. Maybe in the next Congress where some of us should have gone because we don't qualify to be in the Youth League after the next Congress of the Youth League. Because it's not about us, it's about heading over to the next generation of young people who must then continue to advance. That it's important that young people must take over. In the last NEC of the Youth League, we said that the leadership we are advancing now, which some of them have made it, should actually be a transitional leadership. In the next Congress of the ANC, young people must rise to the top.
Well, we'll have to wait and see whether that will happen. After the short break, we're going to go straight to Griselda Lewis, who is in Soweto. You know that that's the hometown of the president who has now been elected as the president of the ANC. But we'll go to Griselda after this quick ad break.
The ANC's 54th National Conference is here. The branches have spoken, From the 7 candidates, 2 are leading. Who will emerge victorious? SABC News will bring you the national conference coverage live from Naswick Daily on TV, radio and digital platforms from 16 December.
We take an in-depth look of all your stories of the day across the world.
Last month, Mkhwebane said that the bank had failed in its duties to protect the public by not ensuring that ABSA repaid an apartheid-era bailout given to the failed bank, Bank-Corp. The rand fell nearly 2% on her remarks.
My effort, in my opinion, is going to be to build a Zimbabwe that I believe in, as opposed to remaking a Zimbabwe of the past that I cannot do anyway. So I'm absolutely clear on this.
We need to start showing more commitment by government that they are committed to working with business, and therefore that should start to stimulate confidence, and with confidence comes investment, and with investment hopefully comes growth.
Stay tuned to Primetime News every day from 18 hours.
Jumbo Africa, welcome to the newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin. I'm Ken Makamara.
Let us build our continent brick by brick, stone by stone, until we achieve.
Plus, had asked the court to review and cancel the contract after adverse findings by both the Auditor General as well as the Public Protector.
Well, Christianity is under attack globally. It has been from the beginning of time.
Get all the dominating stories locally and globally on Newsroom every Monday to Friday from 9 a.m.
When life takes a different turn.
If I didn't eat the speak, he was going to evict me.
Your will to persevere is ignited.
I'm not a professional speaker, but I'll try my best to give you a word of inspiration.
He was just trying to provide for his family.
If you can't accept it, change it. If you cannot change it, accept it.
And a new story begins.
Made a resolve to myself. I'm learning something new.
Bupilong, every Friday at 5:30. Be part of the life-changing journey.
Well, we continue with our coverage of the ANC's elective conference. You are still watching a special edition of Special Assignment, as we've been mentioning throughout the day. Now that the announcement has been made who the victor is in terms of being president of the ANC, and that, of course, is Cyril Ramaphosa. We're now going to go straight to Soweto, where Griselda Lewis is standing by. Griselda, scenes of jubilation earlier on, immediately after the announcement. I guess that celebration still continue in Soweto.
Well, a very
sound, please. Sound, Frankie. We don't have the thank you.
Okay, we seem to have a problem there. Okay, we seem to have a problem. We'll get back to Griselda Lewis. Professor Siepa, just touching on what Colin Miner mentioned earlier on, the issue of young people, but you raised something else, the representation of females.
Yeah, one of the things that the ANC has always been pushing for is 50 representation. And of course, they would argue that that was not at the level of presidency. But if you look at the way the campaigns were run, it was almost like you have a female president and a deputy who will be male, or a male president and a deputy who will. But what the delegates were saying is that there are issues that we want to consider before we actually focus on that issue principle. What is very important for us is the unity of the organization. And secondly, what we want to see is the element of continuity. So what they were saying is that in as much as we have bought into this policy of gender parity, it will not be by any means necessary, that there are other issues that we'll consider first. And I think the ANC has been going through difficult times. And I think what they've been saying is that this conference was supposed to be, it's a matter of do or die. And it just happened that this year is a year in which they celebrate Oliver Tambo. And whole idea of Oliver Tambo was always about unity. So it has never been about the gender would be the one that liberate you. Is that when there are challenges, unity becomes the principle. And the president, even when he opened his presentation, it was around unity. When he ended, it was around unity. But also the fact that he brought the 7 presidential candidates was to remind them that the comrades, let's not turn on each other. Yeah. Let's turn to each other so that we can move forward. So you saw that element coming, and you also saw even among the alliance partners. If you listen to Blade speaking today, what you got was no longer a sense of anger at the ANC. It was to remind the ANC that we are comrades. Let's find unity, but that unity must be principled.
And you ended up by singing ANC as a gender. Let's just quickly bring in the second Deputy Secretary of the SACP, Chris Matlak, who joins us now. And you've recently been elected, and I made the argument that the SACP seems to be facing the same challenge as the ANC when it comes to female representation at the top level. You only have 1 female. Why is it so difficult within the alliance, it seems, to have female candidates pushed through up to the highest level?
Well, I think it's a representation. It's a microcosm of our society. Our society has to, in a way, also make headway in respect of the issues of gender. So our organizations, the ANC, the party, we also have a long way to go. We're making strides. Professor Sepe was talking about the fact that there was a slate, so to speak, borrowing the words, led by Nkosazana, which sought to bring the issues of women to the fore. Unfortunately, she didn't make it. But I mean, I think what we have to be doing as organizations, particularly progressive organizations in this country, is to work hard at that. But also take our society along, because to the extent to which delegates, who are the people who voted on this matter, have to make the choices, and they don't make those choices in our organizations. So it's a representation of our society, and we have to inculcate that into our society and take it through so that it manifests in our organizations.
Lebohang Pheko makes the argument that it must be done deliberately and intentionally. Then one needs to ask the question whether, while the ANC has done well in terms of female representation, now it's the nominations for the ANC's 80 NEC members, and we understand that the target is to have no less than 50% representation of females in the NEC. This is now the 80 numbers. Shouldn't the same be at the top level, Chris?
You know, the top leadership represents a particular phase of the organization, and people have kind of different interpretations of what that phase should be. And you cannot fault, I mean, the delegates that came here, and the Prof was making the point that in the current epoch, the ANC faces particular challenges. And for them, maybe that was the most important aspect that they needed to bring to the fore, so that they're able to transcend at least those challenges. But this doesn't necessarily mean it relegates the issue of gender. And both the ANC and other progressive organizations in this country have at least put into their constitutions, you know, stipulations that this quota has to be achieved and this has to be realized. So we're making that kind of progress as organizations. But as I say, it is a matter that we need to put into our society, inculcate it, have it holistically embraced, and in that way, it will become an automatic thing for organizations.
It becomes a normal thing. And the interesting thing is to see someone like Didi Mabuza saying, it's okay, I'm willing to be the deputy president to somebody like Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. But just let's quickly go back to Soweto, where Griselda Lewis is standing by. Griselda was saying earlier on, when you were speaking to some of the residents in Soweto after the announcement was made, there were scenes of jubilation. I think you spoke to a principal as well, of the former principal of Cyril Ramaphosa, and she said that Cyril has always displayed these leadership skills.
Well, a very good evening to you, Aldrin. We must apologize for our earlier break in transmission. Our equipment has been working overdrive. for a couple of days now, but absolute scenes of jubilation here in Soweto, just outside the home of Cyril Ramaphosa. This is where he moved to in 1963 with his parents and his siblings as well. So these are the people who've known this man for the longest time, and they're saying they're extremely proud of him. This evening, when he was announced as the new president of the ANC, we saw them dancing, singing. A lot of music was blurring from the cars as well that came past here. And as you can see, everyone has come out onto the street to come and say that they're hoping that Cyril Ramaphosa will not just be good for the African National Congress, but will also be good for the fortunes of South Africa and turning around some of the challenges that the country does face. I did indicate a bit earlier on when I spoke to his sister as well. They indicated they were very excited. In fact, right now, they've just about retired into the home and are basically letting it sink in. And the people of Soweto here in Soweto are saying that Christmas has come early for them. Let's chat to some of them now. And one of the people who was dancing and singing here since very early on this afternoon. Sir, let's get your reaction first of all to Cyril Ramaphosa being the ANC president.
I'm happy because he's going to bring a change in this world. And re thabile o bona re le banyane le batho ba baholo mo re thabile re tlo tlisa change and re hope hore vele change o tla itlisa lefatsheng.
Wena ntate o tswa Soweto.
Ke tswa ko Soweto mama.
Have you ever seen Mr. Ramaphosa here, or are you still looking forward to seeing him?
Ke na lo mona but from far ha tlila tlo tshakela ha bone ka ban ke motho o private, you understand? Yeah, mara ke mona ke motho o nang le tlhompho o tla re aga le rona re le batjha re thabile a change.
Change just one thing that you would want personally. I know that he's the ANC president, but of course the ANC as the governing party decides on policies that would better the lives of South Africans. What would you say?
Nna ke batla a zamori dikolong re kgone ho ya re rutege le mesebetsi e be teng ke yona ntwe ke ilelang ka ban tsengata re nka se ra re fe tšhelete nka se re tšhelete a bule dikolo re kgone re ye dikolong re rutege re kgone re sebetse re godise a country re le batjha ba lefatshe le. Yeah.
Quite a lot of expectation already. I guess the in-tray of Cyril Ramaphosa is already quite full, but he is the ANC president, and I guess the hopes of many of the others here are hoping that the kind of influence perhaps that he will have would translate into good fortunes for the ANC in the 2019 elections. But what would we be talking about if we didn't speak to young people? Young people are the future of this country. They've cast their hopes and aspirations in the African National Congress as the governing party. Let's chat to one of them and find out what she thinks. You've seen Mr. Ramaphosa before. I spoke to you earlier. You've seen him quite a number of times. Now he's the ANC president.
Yo, I'm so happy. Njable, I can't even express my feelings. Yo, yes, marangezala. Agekho omuntu ongeka zajabula yo siyamthanda sonke siyamthanda like yazini babsirili mawungaba la singajabula because we know ukuthi angachange yonke into everything.
Did you ever think ukuthi umuntu osuke eShawelo would ascend to the ANC presidency very quickly? We don't have much time. Nawe njengomuntu omusha sobona ukuthi umuntu ophethe ANC manje umuntu ophuma la eShawelo.
Yo, inkinga ukuthi ne yabo ubaba Cyril njengoba sijabule kanje ukuthi ungenile as president la eShawela like asaziwa as youth ngaziwa most abomama bala abadala abogogo youth asaziwa at all asaziwa imisebenzi yaphuma ini asaziwa mara thini youth ye-ANC ikhona.
Thank you very much. Well, all right. Oh, much excitement here. I'm going to try and get my way through here as the celebrations continue here on the streets of Soweto. The singing and the dancing continues here, Aldrin, and we're expecting that to be continuing throughout the course of the night. It's back to you in studio.
Well, certainly those scenes of jubilation and the celebrations continuing there in Soweto. Certainly when you have an election of a new president, there comes a lot of expectations as well with that new president. Let's quickly go to an ad break, and after that we'll continue our discussion on the outcomes of the ANC's elective conference with regards to the new leaders. Well, welcome back to this special edition of Special Assignment. It's a Monday. The ANC has a new top 6 official. The ANC has a new president. And we've been discussing the outcomes of the decision that has been taken by the ANC delegates who are participating in the votes here at the ANC's 54th elective conference. And one of those people who's been participating and who have been part of the campaigning as well is former NEC member Lindiwe Zulu. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Just your first thoughts after the announcement of the results, what went through your mind?
Well, of course, the first thing that went to my mind was we were looking at having women at the top decision-making structure of the African National Congress for the very first time in 104 years. And that was the main reason why those of us who supported Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma thought that she would make it. But however, she hasn't made it. There are members of the top 6 are now in place. The first and most important thing for us to do is to respect the processes of the African National Congress and respect the decisions of the branches, because people who went into the booth were members of branches as they were mandated by their branches.
Is it fair for me to say that Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma may not have won this particular race, but it's certainly a victory for the campaign that the ANC Women's League have been going on about? That there must be an ANC women's president at some point, and looking at the numbers as well and the margins, that this was not just a rejection of a female president.
Yes, it simply says to us as women, we still have a responsibility to continue our struggle for the emancipation of women. It also means that we must look at what is it that didn't go right, so that next time when we embark on another campaign like that, we do the right thing by the candidate, we do the right thing by mobilizing much more than we have done. The struggle for women's emancipation did not start because we had Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma running for that post. This is an old struggle. This is something that as the Women's League, will continue to be committed to, because we believe that having more women in key decision-making structures, we have seen it for ourselves, what impact it has when there are women in those key decision-making structures. So the struggle continues in as far as fighting for women being in the top positions of the ANC. We talk about 50% of women in key decision-making structures of the ANC, and that does not preclude the top.
Yeah, I was actually saying that earlier on to Colin Mine as well. When will you start pushing young people to get to the top as well, instead of just focusing at an NEC level? Zubeida Jaffa, you've been watching this and you've been following this from the beginning of the campaigning that has been taking place. But quite interesting, though, is that when you look at the different slates, whether you want to call them slates, and you see that both sides have been represented.
It does seem to me that some deal has been cut, because it's just too easy that you have 3 people from the one side and 3 of the other. And I think the ANC has always been big on trying to maintain unity. And I do think that there's been some arrangement made, because as you can remember earlier, there was supposed to be the announcement of the elections. And then we waited, and we waited. And from what I understand, in discussions, and that certain compromises were made. And that could be a good thing for the ANC in terms of keeping the organization together, but it's going to have to be seen whether it's a good thing for, you know, for the long run in terms of the health of the country and the organization.
Linda, was there deal cut? Was there negotiations that happened behind the scenes during the time when we were expecting the results to be announced?
I cannot answer that question because I quite honestly do not know. But one thing I can say is that in any elective conference of the ANC, there are going to be discussions between branches, between the leaders who are leading the branches. Those discussions will happen, will take place, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with those discussions taking place. I think the issue of unity, which we have been, I think the singing in the horn all the time was about unity before you even heard anything about the name of this one and that one. Unity in the African National Congress is at the center. And especially after having gone through the current challenges that the African National Congress has been having, even at branch level going up. So unity is supposed to be something that we all have to work on. We are committed to working towards uniting the African National Congress, because an ANC that is not united really will see us in a worse situation than where we are right now. And therefore, we have to do everything we can. The branches have chosen who they have chosen. We have now are going to be going into the other elections now of the additional members. We are to see what happens in relation to the additional members, because, again, I am one of those women, truly and genuinely, does not look at the election of a woman from a point of view of just because it's this woman. For me, it is a principle that as women we have been fighting for. It is a principle that for me as an individual and many other women of the ANC, we can take it back to when we were in the camps in Angola and tell the stories of how we have been fighting for this to happen. But at the end of the day, you win sometimes, you lose sometimes. What is important is to rise to the occasion and accept that these are the results that we have now, and also begin to even speak to the comrades who are now in office, because you've got 5 men and 1 woman. It's our responsibility to continue ensuring that everybody in the ANC at all levels understand why we are calling for inclusion of women in key decision-making structures.
Let's quickly speak about the politics of the outcome. Many have made the argument that post this outcome, there will be what was referred to back in Polokwane as 2 centers of power. that you have the deputy president of the ANC, or rather you have the president of the ANC, who in this case, which is quite different to Polokwane, is that in this case you have the president of the ANC who will be the deputy president of the country, and the president of the country who is the former president of the ANC. Going forward, how do you think the NEC as well as the ANC can deal with this matter to make sure that there's no bad blood between the two?
The African National Congress cannot afford bad blood because it doesn't serve the African National Congress. Probably it would serve individuals as the way they feel. When we talk about unity, we talk about the whole package of unity. And therefore, we have your top 6. You still are to have your additional members. Such discussions cannot be discussions that are loosely thrown around. Those are discussions that would have to be taken to the National Executive Committee. And those issues will also arise on the basis of structures of the movement. It's not something that will arise because somebody somewhere is sitting and thinking about that. If that's how some comrades feel about it, they know exactly that there are processes, there are procedures in the African National Congress which need to be followed. And I'm sure that if whoever has got that thinking, they will also have to contend with the fact that it's something that has to be brought to the attention of the leadership of that time.
Zubeida, would you say that the incoming NEC, the ones who will be elected now, face a very difficult task? Because, as I mentioned earlier on, you have the president of the ANC, who is the deputy president of the country, and the president of the country, who is the former president of the ANC.
Well, it's for a very short time because it's now the Christmas period, and from what I understand, if Cyril Ramaphosa has committed himself to clean up and to move forward, and I sense that there will have to be change by February before Parliament opens, and that we will have to have a fresh start. If the ANC is serious about winning the 2019 elections, it's going to have to move very quickly.
What do you mean there must be change? What should happen?
I think that they will ask President Zuma to step aside. There are people who are saying he should be impeached. There may be others who are going to say that, to speak more gently to him, to get him to move aside. But anyway it's going to be done. There's got to be a fresh start in 2018. Otherwise, things are going to drag on and on and on. And it's already been dragging on. And that possibility of unity in the way it's been sculpted now may not be a good thing for the country.
Do you agree with that?
If the elections of the African National Congress new leadership is based on this kind of a discussion, I would not agree with it. Simply that this conference that we are having here is a conference which was due because the time had come for us to have a conference. So that's where I start. And as to the discussions around the issues that are being raised, I don't think that anyone must set an agenda for the African National Congress. If these issues are issues which are being discussed within the ANC by members of the ANC, and already the thinking is like that, let that be also taken for a test and discussion within the African National Congress. I don't think that these are issues that we can jump about and get into when actually the very first meeting, we haven't even concluded electing. So I don't want to get into a space of deciding for the next leadership that's going to be in there, because let me also make it straight. There is President of the African National Congress, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. He is a president who will be leading a collective. And then his leadership will also be about leading a collective, which, by the way, is something that the ANC, including the outgoing president, who has been talking about, to say, unless we really take this issue of collective leadership and also ensuring that there's unity this is going to be a continuous thing that never ends in the ANC. And as an ANC, we are not about that.
Are there any dangers, though, if the president is recalled? If the NEC probably takes a decision that the president must be recalled, or the president himself takes that decision that I think that my time here as president of the country is up and I feel that I must resign. Do you foresee any problems, also taking into consideration what happened in 2007, 2008 after Thabo Mbeki was recalled?
Look, the bottom line here is that I cannot speak for the president and say this is the decision that he's going to make. The
but
president of the country.
Should the president be removed, or the president himself decide to step down?
That can't be my decision sitting here and making that kind of an analysis. That analysis, when something like that is being put on the table, it shall be taken through the processes of discussion, not only by the National Executive Committee new coming, but also by the structures of the African National Congress. So I can't, as a member of the ANC, sit here and say this is exactly what is going to happen, because since I belong to that African National Congress, I know that all those issues, when they are proposed, they are discussed, they are tested, and finally, whatever decision is being made is a decision that the leadership overall believes this is the direction that we need to take.
Zubeida, I see even beyond this ANC conference that when the NEC's first meeting is being set down, that this issue might come when you have people like, if Pravin Gordhan, for instance, gets re-elected to become an NEC member, if the likes of Derek Hanekom are part of the NEC, that this issue will be raised yet again.
I do believe it's a major issue and it's going to surface. And I think it's beyond just the ANC or the ANC as an organization, but how the ANC will position itself as far as the general public goes. And there has been a huge gap in authentic leadership for a long time now. And if the ANC chooses to ignore that, I think the ANC is going to suffer the consequences. And all the talks and the mood here was that people should rebuild the ANC and should strengthen it and must ensure that 2019 the ANC can win the elections. But if the ANC is going to drag its feet, I personally, as an observer for many years, I've sensed the mood, you know, right across the country. I work in the Free State as well, and the mood is that this confusion in leadership, this dilly-dallying about principles must come to an end.
Well, let's just quickly, let me ask you this one, Zubeida. What would you say would be this new leadership's first task when they get into office? Also take into consideration the issue that you mentioned around 2019 and the organizational report raising the alarm that there is this risk of the party being relegated to a rural party.
It'll depend on many things. It'll depend on the NEC and what the composition is. But there are certain issues that are on the agenda. And Cyril Ramaphosa, for example, with his strong or purported strong connection with business, I would like to see that he tables and puts it very clearly that he will speak to business and say to business that they've been part of dragging their feet. They can't stand aside and see all these people in our country not eating and say, oh, it's just the fault of the political leaders. And I feel that he will also have to show now whether he's going to put it on the agenda and say what is the primary problem, and the primary problem is that our people are suffering. And so I would like to see how he's going to use his influence as a very respected person and going to business and saying, look, it's time you come to the party and not sit on trillions of rand, which our people have made for business. Our people have been working, and yet now we are hamstrung, you know. So I would like to see that as a priority, beside the state capture issue and all the issues that we know about already. But I'd like to see that, because we cannot continue to see people scratching in buns and people not eating and people not having jobs.
Melindiwe, as a former member of the NEC, as a minister as well, Minister of Small Business, what would you say would be the immediate task? Because I even made the argument earlier on that this conference is not just a conference of electing new leadership, but it's also a conference that sets the foundation for an election manifesto that will be launched in 2019.
Well, let me start by just saying that I'm not sure what is the meaning of authentic leaders, because all of us who now have stepped aside now because there's a new conference, were elected exactly the same way that we were elected here today.
Yes, yes.
So I don't know what's authentic and non-authentic. One thing I know was that all of us were elected fairly and squarely, same process. So I want to put that to rest. The most important challenge that faces South Africa is poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We can bicker as much as we want about this leader or that leader. This is the bottom line. Bottom line is that South African, black in particular, women in particular, youth in particular, have got no jobs. So the task of the African National Congress is a continuation of what this ANC, which has outgone, that has really set a good pace in as far as approaching and developing the plans that will help us get out of this situation. Leadership in the African National Congress has never been one individual leadership. We do respect, however, obviously, the responsibility that one leader takes as a president. We expect that when somebody has been, like Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa has been, he has to give guidance, he has to show the center holding, he has to make sure that everyone around him, first in the National Executive Committee, is supportive. Secondly, from all levels of the structures of the ANC, we have to rally around him as having been elected, because whether you like it or not, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa has been elected by this conference to lead the African National Congress. But however, having said that, we are going to be a collective leadership, which, by the way, I feel, having seen him in all the National Executive Committee meetings, that's what he was doing. He never went out on the side on his own and say, no, me, I feel like this and that, and me, I'm going to say this and that. One thing I know I've seen, he's really been part and parcel of that collective
Apart from
leadership.
the time that there was the cabinet reshuffle, of course, and then Pravin Gordhan was moved, and then he came out publicly to say that he doesn't agree with this.
Absolutely. Let's also put that in perspective. The current president of the Republic of South Africa is President Jacob Zuma. The same way that when we go to the elections in 2019 and President Cyril Ramaphosa becomes the president of the country, he will also have to deal with certain issues where there are others who will be in there who don't agree with him, but there is that collective that would say we guide and we help each other in leading both the African National Congress and the country.
Do you think that he will be able to strengthen the role that the ANC plays in Parliament as now he's now not only just a member of Parliament and Deputy President of the country, but he is now President of the ANC? Do you think that he'll be able to foster unity even within the ANC in Parliament, the ANC caucus?
Absolutely, we don't have a choice there. This is an opportunity for us to deal with some of the things that made it very difficult for the ANC in terms of disunity among ourselves, speaking in different tongues, saying different things at different levels, even when policy positions are very straight. You have comrades saying whatever they want at whatever time because they are informed by particular interests. He is the leader of government business in Parliament. Obviously, he will continue to be that, and of course, his own leadership, now that he is now going to be even chairing the NWC, when the NWC is elected, when it is elected, one looks at him as a new leader that is leading the African National Congress, who will need everyone around him, those particular who are going to be elected as additional members. Comrade Cyril will need everybody around him. So I don't even want us to be getting into conversations that are beginning to say there's no hope for the ANC. I personally believe that there is hope for the ANC, and his leadership He'll have to show his leadership in guiding the African National Congress.
Zubeida, just in closing, Cyril Ramaphosa during his campaign has made a lot of noise around the issues around corruption and the issues around state capture. Do you see him follow through on some of these commitments that he has made, considering now that he has also part of his membership, or the top 6 are people who come from a different school of thought?
He will have difficulties. It will be challenging, but as was said here by Ms. Zulu, that he will have to work with, within that context, and he will have to find a way to keep his word, while at the same time not disrupting the efforts at unity. And I think that's going to be a tough thing for him to do.
Well, definitely it will be a tough thing to do, to see whether Cyril Ramaphosa would be able to live up to the expectations that is created, and whether those who have been elected alongside him, as well as the top 80, or rather the 80 NEC members who will be elected today, whether they will also rally behind his calls in terms of the issues around state capture, growing the economy, and so forth. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this special edition of Special Assignment. Thank you so much for making a date with us every evening on Monday. Unfortunately, this is the last part of this particular coverage of the ANC's elective conference of day 3. Tomorrow morning, Morning Live will be live here from the ANC's elective conference. It will be day 4. Good evening and goodbye.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much indeed for choosing Morning Live.
But I want to know the basic thing.
Griselda Lewis, SABC News, in Parktown, Johannesburg.
Zimbabwe, Mzondeli Mbeje, SABC News, Luanda, Angola.
Let's take a look at your market indicators.
Thanks for staying with Morning Live. Let's bring you your sports news.
Let's take a look at your satellite image.
Set the agenda for the day with Morning Live.